And now something completely different.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you live just outside.
I like to think balding is just God's way of saying, now let's see you get laid.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
The hair loss community has a lot to be thankful for, having you as a spokesperson.
You mean you just call this guy up?
About life and about reality.
And now, America's #1 reality radio show for men. Live from Los Angeles, it's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Hey guys, welcome to the show. Phone number is 888-659-3727. Great to be here. I was not sure if I was going to do a live broadcast tonight, but I'm glad I'm in town. I'm glad I'm here to do this because I think tonight we're going to have a really special show. Now, Joe Tillman's supposed to be joining us tonight, but I don't see him online. So I think either he's having trouble with Skype or he's having trouble with his new studio. But hopefully he will be online soon and we can pipe him in. But listen, if you're new to the broadcast and you don't know who I am or why I'm here, I'm a consumer advocate for men and women suffering with hair loss. I am the author of The Bald Truth and the Truth About Women's Hair Loss. And I am a guy who has been dealing with hair loss for over 2 decades. I have dealt with just about every emotional aspect of this incredibly devastating disease of the spirit. And I know if you're watching me right now, and by the way, you probably hear some crazy room noise. I have to keep the studio door open because it's so hot in here. So we'll see if we can fix that room noise in a second. But Jesus, this cracks me up every time this happens. If you're looking at me for the first time and you're probably thinking to yourself, Jesus, this guy has hair in his head. Why is he doing a bald show? Well, in an effort to give you guys full disclosure, this is a partial comb over. It's a quasi-sham. I'm currently painting the back of my head. I have a ton of hairspray on, and I'm a guy who has been fortunate enough to save a lot of his hair with the use of FDA-approved products, Finasteride or Propecia being the core of my regimen. But it's not perfect. But I am very, very, very fortunate that I've been able to do and to save, as much hair as I have over the last 20 some odd years. The sound is driving me nuts, guys. So I'm sorry if I sound a little distracted, but God almighty, it never ends. Let me give out the phone number, 888-659-3727. That's 888-659-3727. Tonight we have a couple of guys one guy, he's a friend of the show. He's been a part of the Bald Truth since the beginning. He's an IAHS accepted member, and his name is Dr. Alan Bauman. You guys know him well. He is, in my view, a real innovator in this field on several levels. Obviously, he's a great hair transplant surgeon, but this guy has really been able to get the word out there about state-of-the-art surgical hair restoration in ways that most guys in the field they haven't been able to do. He's been extremely creative in getting this message out. And, I think if you've been watching the show for a long time, you know that Dr. Bauman was part of our first live. Actually, he was the doctor that we were filming and his clinic during the first live streamed hair transplant surgery. And guys, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that I'm distracted, but it is literally like a construction zone outside. I don't know what's happening. It's driving me nuts. I may have to get up and close this door, even though it's 110 degrees in here. So we're going to have Dr. Bauman on the show. And we are also going to be having a patient of his who actually won a really, I think, well-done online contest to win a hair transplant. And again, like I said, Dr. Bauman is extremely creative, but the bottom line is it's not about contests. It's not necessarily about winning a contest. And I'm glad that this guy won a free hair transplant. But really, at least in my view, these contests are run and this type of publicity is done to promote state-of-the-art surgical hair restoration in ways that, really have never been done before. So I think it's pretty cool. Let me give out the phone number, 888-659-3727. Before I take Dr. Bauman and get his patient on the line, I want to let you know that you can call this broadcast if you have any questions, concerns about your, it's like a helicopter flying in here. It's crazy. Any questions or concerns about your hair loss? If you just need to vent, this is your safe place. So that's 888-659-3727. Let's see. I think this is Dr. Bauman. Let's say hi to him. Hey, Dr. Bauman, is that you? How are you, man?
It is me. How's everything going?
I can't complain. Andrew is yelling at me to say ignore the noise in my room, but he's driving me crazy. And I'm very open and honest with you guys.
Yeah, I could hear that there was something going on because the audio was just a little bit choppy. It was cutting out just a little tiny bit. So I knew there was like a vibration or something happening back there.
I don't even want to talk about it. So anyway, so let's talk. let's talk about this contest. I think it's pretty cool that you. First of all, you got a lot of publicity for it, and I think you ran it just on Facebook. Why don't you explain what you did?
So what we did, first of all, this goes back actually over a year ago to Kevin Ralston's procedure, which we did live also, by the way, live and streaming. Kevin Ralston was our local radio DJ. And over the past year, we've run a few different contests, mainly through the radio and through livehair.tv, which was my radio show. We gave away a basket of goodies, which contained minoxidil and some other hair care products. We gave away laser caps, and all of the patients, all the people who signed up for the contest were included in this big bucket, if you will, of potential patients who may want to have a hair transplant. And we gave away one hair transplant to the group. So here's what we did: we had the group of people submit information about their hair loss situation. And of course, we had them sign specific documents that they were going to enter the contest and that would release their information publicly. And that was made very clear up front.
Okay.
And then we asked them to send in some videos. And from those videos, there were really two standouts, Kerry and Steve. And what we did is we created a web page that was called Battle of the Balding, and it was hosted on the livehair.tv website. And we asked people to go watch the two different videos of each of the different people, Kerry and Steve, and then vote for the person they felt who would most deserve the hair transplant.
Now, let me ask you, what made these guys stand out to you? Was it their plea for a hair transplant, or was it the type of patient you thought they would make? Was it their, I don't know. I mean, what was it that made them stand out as opposed to all the rest?
Well, it's a combination of things. It's like, just like a consultation. You want to make sure that the person is a good candidate for the procedure, and you want to make sure that they're mentally stable enough and understand risks and benefits and kind of what they're getting into. So I treated it like very much like a consultation process, because I knew that if we put these guys together, or a group of people together and had voting, that there's a good chance I'm going to be operating on one of them. Barring some unforeseen medical condition. So, I had to be very specific about it. We had to be very diligent. Both of these guys were in what I felt were great candidates for the procedure. What was interesting is that they had totally different hair loss situations. Steve had hair loss mostly in the crown area, and Kerry had mostly hairline and frontal zone issues.
Right.
So it was kind of interesting that they had two different things.
But the thing is, I'm looking at Kerry's pictures right now. Let me put them up online.
Great, got the photos.
Yeah. So this is what, and Kerry's actually on the line, and I'm going to pot him up in a second. But this is what Kerry's head looks like. And the truth is, this is significant hair loss. And when you're dealing with, having a surgical hair restoration, obviously, framing the face is really the most important part of the surgery, in my view. And the fact that he's lost the frame to his face, to me, makes him really a perfect candidate for the procedure.
Absolutely. I've also had the opportunity to know Kerry just locally here in town for about 15 years or so. So he's a pretty prominent and well-known guy. And really that came through in the voting, because he was able to move forward with quite a bit of social media action to get people to vote for him.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
But I don't want to steal all the thunder. I want to have him.
All right, so let me pod Kerry up. Let me say hi to Kerry.
Great.
Hey, Kerry, you're on the air. How are you, man?
Great, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. Listen, I hope you don't mind me stating the obvious that you definitely have a significant amount of hair loss, and I think that by undergoing surgical hair restoration with your type of hair loss, I think you're going to see, even if you only have a few thousand grafts, you're going to see a significant difference in your appearance.
Yeah, I'm excited about it.
So tell me about it. I mean, so you entered this contest. I mean, how did you feel initially when you? I mean, were you really excited about it? Obviously, you're excited about winning, but tell me what your motivation was.
Well, my motivation was to win it, obviously, and I don't get that excited about many things. Yeah. So it didn't really hit me. It's like gradually hitting me. It'll hit me when I show up there Thursday morning at 7:30. But I didn't realize how bald I was until I just saw that picture on your screen.
Well, check this one out.
Oh, God.
So, but listen, but this is
somebody
the thing.
wrote in the chat room to look away.
Yeah.
But listen, the truth of the matter is, I mean, this is not atypical. I mean, how old of a guy are you?
I'm 49.
Okay, so you're 49 years old. When did you start losing your hair?
I guess maybe I noticed it maybe about 10 years ago.
Okay. Now, how has it affected you? How has it affected your I mean, it affects all of us emotionally to some degree, but how have you dealt with it?
The way it affected me was because of what I do. I'm out and about. I'm in a lot of pictures, and I've shied away from the camera for the past few years. I see myself, and I'm like, that's just not the shot of me that I want to be out there.
Yeah, no, so I certainly understand how it feels to just see, at least in your mind, see your appearance eroding along with your hairline. And the reason I do what I do is because I started to lose my hair at such a young age. It really affected me emotionally. I mean, it just threw me for a loop. So I certainly understand that. A lot of guys would say that it's probably easier for a guy to start, you said you didn't really notice it until your late 30s. And there's a lot of guys in the hair loss community who would tell you that, well, at least you made it to your late 30s before it started to bug you. But you know what? It doesn't matter it doesn't matter when it happens. It doesn't matter how old you are. Once the progression of your hair loss starts to affect you, it affects us all in the same way. I think, at least to some degree, we feel less comfortable in our own skin. And I think it's interesting that you said that you didn't like to see yourself in pictures, because that's usually one of the first things that people start talking about. That's when they noticed it, when they were seeing, images of themselves online or whatever.
Oh, totally. Especially because what I do. I mean, I'm out there in front of pictures every week.
Well, listen, I will tell you this, and I'm not here to just, give the stroke Dr. Bauman, but, he's really one of the best at what he does. So you're certainly in good hands. And I think it's, exciting to be able to get this out there to the masses in kind of more of a mainstream type of way through the resources that Dr. Bauman has been, getting the message out there and, on. And I think it's really, it's compelling stuff that until people actually see the transformation, it's really hard for them to kind of imagine what it's going to be like. I'm sure your friends and your family are like, oh, that's great, you're getting a hair transplant, but they probably don't really understand how much different you're going to feel about yourself and how much you're, better you're probably going to look.
Yeah, I think they're going to be jealous. I mean, my father and my brother definitely have pretty much shaved their heads. So when they see this, they're going to think maybe they should reconsider.
Well, but let me ask you this. I mean, how does your brother and your father deal with it? Did they talk about their hair loss, or did they just kind of shrug it off and say, you know what, it's happened. We're men. This happens to us. Were they able to move on?
I think that's pretty much. My brother shaved his head. He's an athlete, and he looks good. I just don't think I would look good with a bald head. So that's the way he deals with it. My father just kind of keeps his wispy hair up there.
Yeah. Well, that's that's pretty old school. That's what a lot of guys, the older guys do.
Yeah, and I was actually looking at. I saw him the other day, and I'm like, you know what? Your hair is a little bit further gone than mine, but according to what Dr. Bauman told me, that he would also be a good candidate.
Hey, well, Dr. Bauman, what do you say about that?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was in the chat room. I knew that was going to happen as soon as I answered.
Kerry's saying how you said that his dad would be a good candidate as well.
Well, no, I told my dad that he would be.
Oh, you
because
did?
I saw his head, and it's similar to mine. Just a few less hairs on top. So I figure if Dr. Bauman can save me, he can save my dad.
Well, let me ask you this, Kerry, and then Dr. Bauman will get to you in a second.
Okay.
You know, what did you know about surgical hair restoration before you entered this contest? Did you do any research?
I didn't do it until the middle of the contest when I watched the video, and then I saw the procedure, and I think I turned it off right away. I'm halfway kidding. I'm terrified of needles.
Yeah.
But I knew about it. I knew the new technology was individual hair placement and extraction. So when I finally made myself watch the video, then I realized what I was in for.
Yeah, well, the thing is, you're really not in for. I think when you're doing FUE, it is, for the most part, it's a long, arduous, laborious procedure.
I didn't mean that in a bad way. I just.
Oh no! Listen,
I realized.
I am the guy that has kind of, I've spread the word about the the bad work out there for the last 15 years. I'm a guy that always says surgery is a last resort. Any type of surgery, even if it's this less invasive type of surgery, and that's why I was curious as to what information you had about any type of hair transplant surgery before you kind of got involved with Dr. Bauman.
Yeah, I guess since I've known him for 15 years, just seeing him out and about. I've followed him on Facebook, so I've seen the technology, and I've seen, how he's been using the cutting edge technique. So that part I did know.
Now, have you met any of his patients?
I haven't met them. I've seen a few online, but I haven't met and talked to any.
Yeah.
I may have met them through just being around town and not known it, but I haven't.
Yeah.
Now, have you seen?
It's definitely true. You probably know them, but you don't know that they had the work done.
Yeah.
Now, what about anybody? Did you? And listen, I don't mean to be to grill you, but I asked questions like this of anybody who's considering surgery, and you're about to have it. I mean, have you ever seen a hair transplant up close?
I think I've seen people you're behind them in the checkout line at Publix, and you're like, wow, that's
but that's
a really
not
bad job.
That's not good. I'm talking about a hair transplant.
No, but I mean, I trust Dr. Bauman, so
Yeah, listen,
he wouldn't be able to stay in this town if he couldn't do a good job.
Well, let me tell you this: Dr. Bauman is one of a handful of doctors that we recommend through the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons and the American Hair Loss Association. So I wouldn't have him on this broadcast if I didn't think he was doing great work. So, like I said at the beginning, at the top of the show, I definitely think you're in good hands. But I just kind of like to get an idea of just how much information you actually have on the surgery, since you're going under the knife, so to speak. You're not really, there's no knife involved, but you're having the procedure on Thursday. So let me ask you.
Yeah, I'm someone who hates going to doctors and hospitals, and I'm not worried about this at all. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I can tell you this. We've done several live surgeries with Dr. Bauman, and I have never seen a single patient who was really uncomfortable. I mean, maybe their back got a little stiff because they had to lay in the kind of a prone position for a long time, but that's about it. So I'm not. I don't think you should be concerned about the pain. You're definitely not going to be under any type of. I don't think it's a really stressful situation, at least according to the patients who've undergone the surgery. So as far as that's concerned, I don't think you have anything to worry about. Now, Dr.
Yeah, I'm not worried about any aspect of it. I'm excited.
Well, you should be. I think that's great. So, Doc, tell me how things are going to go down on Thursday.
So, unfortunately for your listeners and viewers, we're not going to do a live video broadcast, but we'll be posting the pictures on Facebook. I could follow along on the Facebook event page. And there's a link to that from the livehair.tv website if people want to kind of check in. Or, of course, they can always follow us on Twitter. But here's what's going to happen on the surgical side. Kerry's got phenomenal donor hair. But we're not going to do like a 2-day complete shave process for him. We're definitely going to try to keep him in the same hairstyle. So I'm going to be a little bit limited in terms of that donor area. We're doing a stealth shave of the donor. So Kerry's got some long hair in the back, so that'll cover the donor area quite well. And of course, we're going to work on the hairline, the temporal points, and to really try to do as much as we can into that frontal 1/3 to 1/2 of the scalp.
So what you're saying is Kerry's refused to shave his head.
Well, not that he refused to. We talked about it.
Yeah. Listen, I get it. I couldn't do it.
Yeah, I mean, some people would, just jump right in and say, yeah, shave it. I want to do as much as I can. But actually, because Kerry's got such a prominent position in the local community, I thought it was actually kind of important to do it this way, so people could see that you don't have to shave your head to go through it. I mean, the vast majority of patients that we do now, we don't shave their whole head.
Right.
And
how many grafts do you think you're going to be able to move?
That's a great question. I'm hoping that we'll get over 2,000 grafts for him on Thursday. There's a lot of different variables that go into that. How big the donor area is that I can shave and get to, how easy it is to extract, and there's just, as you know, so many variables to get the numbers of grafts that we need. But I think we're going to be well over 2,000 grafts on Thursday.
Now, what do you think? What do you think Kerry needs to have a real, change in his appearance?
Yeah, I mean the 2,000 plus 2,200 grafts or so, which I'm hoping to get, will definitely do a significant change for him in terms of the frame of the face and the frontal density. A lot of this process for him, getting him back what I would consider quote unquote full head of hair, has to do with protecting his existing hair,
right,
and enhancing it with some non-invasive treatments. So it's possible he may need more than just that single procedure. But again, Kerry's been one of those patients where we're going to have to do the procedure, get him on the medical therapy, and kind of see where it takes him.
What about finasteride? Has he started taking it yet?
Well, we've talked about a multi-therapy regimen. Propecia, finasteride is definitely, as you know, a big part of my multi-therapy regimen. And so we'll be talking to him about that, getting started with topical medication after the healing is done, like Formula 82M, minoxidil.
Well, Kerry, let me ask Kerry the question. Kerry, yeah, are you
is he game for it?
Yeah, are you into taking finasteride or Propecia? How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I haven't really looked too much into it, but I'm not against it. If it helps my hair grow, definitely.
Well, I think the key is, and obviously Dr. Bauman probably has already filled you in on this, but the key is, if you're going to have surgical hair restoration, I think most doctors would suggest that you do something to keep your hair in check. And we know that finasteride.
You talked to me about that, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm looking at your images now. I mean, you do have a pretty decent, you have decent sides and really a really decent donor. What you want to do is you want to maintain that for as long as you can, and even enhance that, like Dr. Bauman said. And I think that by getting on some sort of regime, it's going to be really important, especially as an adjunct to the surgery. But a lot of guys are, we're about the same age. I think a lot of the younger guys are really concerned about using finasteride because of all the stuff they read about it online, and most of this is just anecdotal stuff that's being circulated, on the internet. But I can tell you from firsthand experience, I've been on the drug for over 20 years, and I would not be doing what I do right now. I never would have written my book. I would have never, gotten on the radio. I would have never started this career if it wasn't for having success with that drug. So I'm a big fan of it. But the one thing I can't, I just always tell people is just be aware of the possible side effects. And I'm sure Dr. Bauman's already filled you in.
Sure, yeah.
Right, Doc?
Yeah, absolutely. As you know, I have literally thousands and thousands of patients that we've treated with Propecia and finasteride over the years. And in fact, we're working on some interesting compounded versions of finasteride, which will be available soon. I'll keep you posted on that. But
wait a second, what are you talking about? What do you got going on?
Well, we're working on a compounded version of finasteride.
And is it?
I can't. I'm not gonna reveal the different ingredients.
Right.
I can't reveal those to you. But
it's okay. So it's going to be an oral compound, or is it going to be topical?
Yeah. No, it's an oral compounded finasteride.
All right. Cool.
It's going to be finasteride plus some other things that will help the situation, of course, and also cut the cost for the vast majority of patients.
Listen, I think that's great. Obviously, the patent is up with the drug, and I think that there are probably a lot of guys who are interested in trying to make it easier for their patients to get, and also less expensive. So I think that's great. I really do. I really.
The problem is we've seen so many problems with those generics that are coming out from the Far East. We really had to take some action. I mean, so many patients coming back. And it seems like it's just not as effective as the name brand.
Well, I will tell you. I will tell you this. I'm definitely a brand whore when it comes to this medication. I will not switch, and I know guys who've contacted us through the program who have decided to save some money in the past. And they decided to go on generic, and they didn't have great luck. So I think you're right. They claim that it's the exact same compound, but for some reason, people lose ground when they make that switch.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We do see that. So, and it's not just the finasteride, obviously. I like combining it with some topicals. We found a great compounded minoxidil. Formula 82M is by far the strongest topical I've ever seen. And laser cap, the best portable laser that you've got on the market. Well, and those are, that's the multi-therapy regimen.
Let me ask you about laser cap. I haven't seen, there haven't been a lot of patients that have contacted us who've been using the laser cap. Now, obviously, you're seeing good results in your clinic. Tell me more about the laser cap.
We're not just seeing it; we're measuring it.
Right.
We're measuring every day what's going on with these patients, whether their hair mass is improving or decreasing or staying the same, with whatever treatment that they're on.
Now, what do you think? And you've explained this before, but the guys who are just tuning in for the first time, what's the main difference in using a laser cap compared to saying using a laser comb?
Well, there's a major difference. When it comes to laser light therapy, it's all about dosage and delivery, consistency, and compliance. So I know it's a long sentence, but you got to understand that if you're using a laser comb, you're trying to water your lawn with a watering can.
Right.
And, if your lawn is the size of a flower pot, that'll be fine. But if you've got a lawn that's the size of a football field, you better, whip out the hose and the sprinkler system, No,
but what about if you have a significant amount of hair and you're kind of just, you're putting this cap or this helmet on top of your existing hair? How does it get to the scalp?
Well, laser light, it goes all the way through. We've done those tests where you could put a wig on a mannequin, a wig on a clear mannequin head and put the laser cap over it. You can see the laser light shining through.
Right.
No doubt about it. There's 224 diodes that are divergent beams, so the path of the light is straight from any of the given lasers, but it's straight in like a zillion different directions. It's not just a spot.
Right.
I think that's maybe the difference between some of the helmet lasers that you see out there in the consumer world, where it's just kind of one spot shining down, like a laser pointer with each diode, as compared to something like Synetics, the clinical lasers that we use in the office of Synetics lasers, and the laser cap where the beams are like divergent, where it's not just pointing at one spot, but you're getting this wide swath of coverage from the lasers themselves that are in the cap.
Well, I will tell you this, that there's no doubt, and we've talked about my concerns about low-level laser light therapy in the past, and the fact that it's difficult for us to give it a complete thumbs up. But I do know that people have come to us through the show and through the American Hair Loss Association, mostly women, who have said that they have benefited from low-level laser light therapy. So I definitely think why not? It's definitely a very, non-invasive option. And like you said, you're seeing substantial, measured increases in hair growth. So, I think it's pretty cool. What do you think about that, Kerry? Are you interested in using that?
Definitely. Yeah. Like I said, anything that's going to help me keep the hair that I have and keep it growing, I'm game.
So, Doc, so this scenario, he has the hair transplant. What do you do for most of your patients? They have their hair transplant. Then are they provided with the laser cap to bring home?
Well, they're provided with all the information. There are many patients that will start off with non-invasive therapies for years, perhaps, before undergoing a transplant. In Kerry's case, obviously, everything gets kind of compressed together because we want to make sure he gets an awesome-looking result, and we've had a lot of discussion about that, what we need to do to keep his existing hair looking and feeling strong, follicles growing well, and then, of course, transplanting the hair in between the existing hairs in the frontal zone and recreating the hairline and so forth. So it's a combination. But, yeah, so patients post-operatively, they can grab the laser cap for wound healing just as much in that post-operative phase as they would for hair growth. So they get kind of that double benefit there. Low-level laser enhances wound healing. There's a lot of studies on that. And then for the long term, it's going to be growing their hair a little thicker, stronger, and better. A laser, it's important for your listeners to know that laser doesn't grow new follicles, but it makes the weaker follicles grow a stronger hair.
Right.
Same thing that minoxidil does.
Right.
Makes a weaker follicle perform better.
Right. No, absolutely.
So that's important.
And it is important. I think a lot of guys, when they consider low-level laser light therapy and they don't see any results, they're like, wait a second, my hair's not growing back. I'm not seeing this. I think the best case scenario is to some degree, a reversal of the miniaturization process. Now, I know that women are claiming, a lot of women who contact us, and there's actually one woman who frequents our message forum, which is mostly guys, on baldtruthtalk.com, and she swears by low-level laser light therapy. So listen, I think it's great. I think if it's going to help the patient, then why not? Now, Kerry, you're going to be followed on Facebook and through Dr. Bauman's resources. Are you going to be putting any information out through your own Twitter account or through your own Facebook page?
Yeah. We've been doing it for the past few weeks and getting a really good response. People wishing me well, a couple people saying just shave your head, but that always comes along with that kind of
just
promotion.
shave your head. It's easier said than done. People say that all the time to me. I paint the back of my head. I wear camouflage makeup, cosmetic concealer. And people are like, why even do that? Why don't you just shave your head and move on? And I tell them, and this is I've been saying this for years. I would look like some guy from the future if I shaved my head. And I don't want to go through life like that.
Exactly.
I want to feel comfortable in my own skin. So I get it, man. Hey, listen, guys, we have Joe Tillman, who's actually joining us tonight from Bald Truth Studios in Canada, believe it or not, in Vancouver. So Andrew asked me to set up this shot. I think Joe may have a question for Dr. Bauman and for Kerry. Hey, man, how you doing? Are you there?
I'm good. Sorry for being late. I had to fly out from work, and boy, are my arms tired. Anyway,
so what's
it's been a long day.
I can't. This whole thing has been very frustrating from the minute I got on the air tonight. But I'm glad that you're here now. Obviously, did you hear any of the program with Dr. Bauman?
Little bit, yeah. I had some sound issues cutting in and out. I don't think I heard all of it or enough, but it sounds like he's got some studies that are showing some promise.
Well, yeah. Well, he was talking about low-level laser light therapy briefly, but basically he is performing a hair transplant on a pretty well-known South Florida personality. And Kerry is actually here with us on the line. And Kerry won a contest that Dr. Bauman had. Basically, people were able to vote online through Facebook, and this guy won a free hair transplant. So he's pretty excited about it.
Congratulations, Kerry. That's awesome.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I heard something about a surgery being broadcast or some sort of surgery Dr. Bauman's doing. So is this a live surgery? Is this going to be a recorded surgery?
Well, we actually, if we had some time, I would have loved to have done something live, but I don't think Dr. Bauman really knew whether or not they wanted to go live. And we just spoke about it briefly the other day. I'm not going to have time to be there. But Dr. Bauman, are you going to be recording it, putting it online somewhere?
Well, we'll be recording pieces of it. We'll definitely be keeping people up to date on Twitter and also on the Facebook event page, which people can link to from the livehair.tv/contest website. There's a specific link that goes right to the event page. And we'll just be posting on the day of. So people can always check back and see what's going on. They'll be able to scroll back to the beginning of the procedure and scroll forward, look at all the photos. And we'll just kind of make it live there, this time around. I think the last live surgery that we did was the female hair transplant, and we just did a little snippet in the middle, a little interview like in the midday, and that worked out pretty good. I mean, it just, every time we just try to do something a little bit different. I mean, we can't top the 75,000 views
that
we
was
had
pretty amazing.
With Kevin Ralston. So I don't know. We just look for other things to do, and Kerry's got a lot of Facebook friends.
Yeah, I probably, depending on how I'm feeling, I'll probably send out a couple of tweets and Facebook messages also.
Well, I'll tell you what. What I can do is, if you want to friend me on Facebook, I could actually, when you send stuff out, or we can friend each other. Or I could follow you on Twitter. Maybe we can put some stuff on baldtruthtalk.com message forum. So when you're having surgery, people can kind of go to the page and see what's happening.
I'm going to put the link to the Facebook event page into the chat room so people can get it from there if they want.
All right, terrific. Well, listen, guys, Kerry, I'm excited for you. You're in great hands. I know that you're going to contact us in a few months, and hopefully you can come back on the program after the results come in to talk about it.
Yeah, I look forward to it. Thank you so much.
Oh, listen, my pleasure. Dr. B, thanks,
sir.
Thanks a lot, man. Anything else you want to get out there for the public?
No, that's it. We're going to have a great time on Thursday, so I just encourage people to follow us on Twitter, check out the Facebook page, and you'll follow Kerry's progress, healing, and regrowth, plus his non-invasive regimen of laser, minoxidil, Propecia, maybe some PRP thrown in there, and plus the new graft FUE transplant that he's going to get on Thursday. So,
well, listen, man,
it's going to be a lot of fun.
I wish you the best of luck, and we'll definitely follow your progress.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Dr. B, thanks a lot.
All right, Spencer, thanks for having us.
Take care. You got it,
Good
guys.
luck, Kerry. All the best.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
888-659-3727 is the toll-free number. That's 888-659-3727. Give us a call here at the Ball Truth. I think I may have hung up on Joe. Joe, you there?
Which Joe? Me, Joe?
I don't know if the Joe from Staten Island is there. I know he was holding.
Okay.
Miami, yeah?
Hold on for one sec, Joe. Let me tell you, man, when it rains, it pours, technically, on this fucking thing. It's unbelievable. I actually felt bad for Dr. Bauman because there was so much noise coming through my headset that I couldn't even concentrate at the beginning of the show. It was just, I know, I told him that he can come on, he can bring Kerry on, and I'm just like, I'm trying to listen to them, and I couldn't even hear what was going on. But that's the way the cookie crumbles.
So
man.
distracting. So distracting. So what do you
what's
think
happening,
of
man? What happened to you today?
Bald Truth Talk Vancouver, man? Check it out.
Are you there?
Got the sound, got the studio built up.
I'm trying to talk to Joe, but now I can't hear him at all.
And I can't hear you.
All right. I'm going to speak to...
there we go.
Okay.
I can hear you now.
You can hear me now. All right.
Yes.
So what happened, man?
I don't know. It's cutting out. There's some sort of a connection issue. Andrew's looking into it. But no, I was saying, well, hey, man, Vancouver, Bald Truth Talk North, got the studio set up. I bought the place next door, knocked out some walls.
Studio's looking good, my man. Studio's looking good.
It's a pretty neat setup. I'm pretty happy with it. It's the wife wasn't so crazy about the construction, but she's dealing with it. She understands.
Well, if you saw the size of this studio at this point in the new house, you'd see my wife wasn't too happy with it either. I took a really big space, but it is what it is, man. You got to make a living, right?
Is it a man cave on the other side of the camera?
It is a man cave. Yeah, it's a bigger man cave.
All right. Well, that's what it should be. Got to have your corner.
So what's happening? I know Joe from Staten Island wanted to ask a question to Dr. Bauman. Joe, I want to apologize for not getting you on the air. We were having a lot of problems, man. Half the time I couldn't hear Dr. Bauman. So,
Spencer, am I on the air?
Yeah, but apparently, let me just finish my thought. Apparently,
keep this up, I may have to fire you, man.
Apparently, there was something wrong with the node on Andrew's side or something, and I was having trouble hearing what was going on. But whatever. It is what it is. So, Joe, go ahead. What's happening? Joe from Staten Island, what's happening?
Well, you want to give my? I guess I won't give my opening because the show's a little different tonight, so I won't give my usual opening.
Your opening. I want to hear your opening. The show's a little different tonight, but we can still do your opening.
I've been preparing this opening for 2 weeks. Would you like to hear it?
Yes.
It's becoming more and more obvious to the community, to the scientific community, we cannot have a viable treatment for hair loss, or not even a cure or an effective treatment. So maybe the scientific community should redirect its efforts towards time travel. Maybe we could build a time machine where all hair loss sufferers could enter it, go back in time, and prevent their parents from ever meeting. Hence, we never been born into these deformed bodies from where we suffer every goddamn day. I wish I could go back in time and my mother, father never met. If I was never born, I'd be a lot more fucking happy than I am right now. Thank you.
My name is
Joe from Staten Island.
excuse me. My name is.
Would you like me to may I reiterate it?
My name is. My name is. My name is.
Have you heard it? Excuse me.
My name is. My name is. My name is.
Joe from Staten Island.
Joe, that was disturbing on so many levels. But, you know, that's you, man. What are you going to do?
Well, that would be a good option, Spencer. We wouldn't be informing these deformed bodies. We might have been hair loss sufferers.
You know what?
Might have been another
you know what? First of all, your body is not deformed. Your brain is deformed, and that's the truth. I have to tell you, Joe. You know that.
You don't think that hair loss sufferers are deformed, Spencer?
No, I don't think they're deformed. I think that they suffer a significant aesthetic deficit. There's no doubt about that, but it's not a deformity.
Yeah, you're a little weak on the phones. Please repeat that.
Jesus, I said that they suffer a significant aesthetic deficit, but I would not consider it a deformity.
Well, I do consider it a physical deformity, but you want me to get to the news first, or get my questions to Joe? Tell me, what do you want me to do first? That's still a question for Joe prepared. Well, you want me to get to the news first?
No, get to Joe first, and then we'll get to the news.
Get to Joe first?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, Joe, let me pose a question to you. I've been thinking about. I really, there's a little problem with your phone, but I tell you that. I can hear you very slightly on the phone now. Something's going on.
Yeah. Well, how can you hear me now, Joe?
I can hear you. I can hear you. I can understand you.
Okay.
My first question is, Joe, to you. I have two questions for you. What percentage of Norwood Sixes do you reject for surgery due to lack of donor area? That's my first question to you.
You want to ask the second question, or you want me to answer now?
Ask you first, and I'll pose a second question to you.
Okay. It's a good question. I don't have the numbers. I mean, I don't think we've actually tallied the numbers, but I mean, in any given day, okay, I didn't do a whole lot today because I was working on some other projects, but yesterday, Monday, I had probably 35, 40 consultations that came in over the weekend, and I'd say a solid 10% were shown the door, metaphorically.
Of not
enough donor hair. Expectations weren't set. This doesn't include the Norwood Sixes that we said get on the medication, give that a shot for a year or two first before you come back and try to get surgery. Yeah, I mean it's a mix, but probably 10%.
So you reject
maybe. At least 10%. I mean it fluctuates, but I'd say at least 10%. Yeah.
Of course, another time you called me 30%. All right, maybe I misunderstood you.
I'm, like I said, we don't keep these numbers, but was I talking about turning down, or was I talking about repair patients? Because 30% is.
I know.
That's not what our repair patient base is.
What percentage of Norwood Sixes do you decline for surgery due to the fact they have an inferior donor area to accommodate the need?
Just from donor area, probably 10%.
It's 10%. I see.
Yeah.
My second question is to you: if you have a patient who had plier plug surgery, would you cut out the strip from where the plugs were and dissect the hairs in between the plugs? Would you cut out an entire strip from a patient from the 80s and dissect the hairs in between?
Take a strip out from where? From the back? From where the plugs were removed?
Back of the sides, whatever it is you guys do. I mean, the back of the sides.
Here's the thing, Joe. Patients that have had plug surgery are, when it comes to the laxity of the donor zone, they're essentially virgin scalps because no strip has been taken. So, you still have the laxity of a virgin scalp. So we've got cases. There was a case that Dr. Wong took on from, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago. And he used to post it online on the forums, and he had about 300 plugs front to back, and he was turned down by all kinds of clinics. But then Dr. Wong thought, well, I want to give this guy a shot, and so he came in. He had 2 sessions, each of about 3,000 grafts, 6,000 grafts total, and he's a free man. It's a fantastic story. So, yeah, we can take from the donor zone as long as it's not been completely tapped out of hair. The laxity is still there as if it was never been touched. The yield won't be the same as if it hadn't been touched, through plug surgery, but it's still very viable to get donor hair from the area, and you're cleaning up the donor scarring to some degree.
All right, Joe just cut out again. Did you hear that, Joe?
No, Joe cut out?
Yeah. There's a problem on Andrew's side.
Lost sound. Hello.
Let me fill out the news while Joe comes back. How's that sound?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, and have your director tell me that Joe's back on, okay?
I'm back on.
First of all, when Joe's back on, please don't be rude to Joe. Hysgen this week secured on September 17th, secured a new patent with the United States Patent Office for the HSC procedure. I'm sure you're aware of that. For the Hysgen complex.
Yeah.
Is Joe back on?
Yeah, Joe's back on.
All right, let me get back to Joe. Go ahead, Joe. What were you saying?
No, I have heard that, yes, about the HST patent.
What you're saying?
What's the question?
Hold on. I gotta stop this show. It is like a fucking abortion. Joe, everyone's cutting out. Joe, you are asking, crazy questions that are just, let's just get to the news, do your thing, and then we'll go on and take some phone calls. How's that?
No, I can do it. I was just asking him. He made a very interesting point. I never knew that a person with plug surgery had a virgin donor area. I didn't know that. Do the strip surgery. I never knew that before. I never heard that before.
I have sound back, guys.
It's very interesting.
That's awesome. Let's go.
Spencer, I missed your interruption, Spencer. What were you saying?
I'm just saying that, the show's been very difficult to do. Joe is kind of like, he's cutting it out himself. He's asking some very just, odd questions, in my opinion. And why don't we just get to the point? Let's talk about the news, and we'll take some phone calls.
All I was saying was, a person with plug surgery, I never knew that the donor area was virgin. Joe made a very interesting point. I've never heard of it. I never knew that.
Let's not concentrate on hair transplants. Let's just, move on to the news.
I said the news.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, Falls got a new patent this week, as we know. You aware of that? September 17th. The United States Patent Office.
Yes.
HSC hair growth. Are you aware of that?
Yes.
Okay. Secondly, something's going on in fog. I don't know. They're definitely in clinical trials. No one seems to know what trial they're in. My understanding is that all they need FDA approval is on their wounding device, which should not be that hard to get.
Right.
I mean, I don't even know why they need approval for a wounding device. Why they need approval for a device like that?
I actually think they probably need clearance, not FDA approval.
Right, like the laser companies, they just have clearance. Am I correct, Spencer?
That's what I would assume, yes.
All right, most importantly, I've carefully dissected your great interview with Dr. Mwamba. I want to give you a lot of credit for that, Spencer. I actually listened to it 5 times. It was a very lengthy interview, but it's a very, very good interview.
Well,
you made 2 good points.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yes, I wish we would have asked one question, though, but maybe your next interview, you could ask the question I'd like you to ask. He made 2 good points. The most important point was he believes that this protocol of Dr. Negron will not need FDA approval. I found that very interesting.
Right.
Am I correct in that?
That is absolutely correct.
I mean, that's extremely interesting.
What?
Interesting point.
Well, all Negum is claimed to do is transect hair follicles, remove them from the scalp, transect them under a microscope, replace part of the transected follicle back in the donor and the other part back into the recipient area. And, apparently that's going to grow hair in both areas. Now, I'm going to be completely candid with you guys, like I always am. I'm glad that Dr. Mwamba has decided to follow through with this. I think that it definitely is hopeful that a person of his stature is interested in what Dr. Negum is doing and is trying to experiment with this process, in his own clinic. However, until we have verifiable proof that this works, I mean, I think you guys are crazy, the guys that are flying down to India to get anything done, or to even think that, this is going to be the end of your hair loss worries. Yes, if they are actually able to double the donor area, that is going to be a significant breakthrough. But we already know that transected hairs, if transected hairs are left in the donor area, that they're going to grow. So that's really, it's not necessarily new information, but can they do it consistently? Can they get, have a guy, have a procedure, go in there, remove these grafts cleanly, transect them, then replace them back cleanly in both the recipient and the donor area without losing grafts, without causing permanent damage to the grafts, without causing microscopic scarring that may impede the growth of the grafts in the donor area, or maybe those grafts won't be usable in the future. These are the same issues that were brought up with Dr. Go, and these are the issues that I brought up with Dr. Go during the interviews that I've had with Dr. Go. Dr. Go admitted that there is a microscopic scarring, and he really doesn't know how many times those transected or bisected grafts could be reused. So while it sounds exciting, and I'm glad that Dr. Mwamba is open to it, and I'm open to it as well, I don't want people to get overly excited because we don't know what the real deal is. Now, with that said, the fact that Mwamba went down there and the fact that he did this interview, it has gone like wildfire across the industry. I have been contacted by dozens of physicians from across the world who are interested in, while they're looking at this with a jaundiced eye, they're interested in learning more. So perhaps these guys will end up speaking with Dr. Negum, speaking with Dr. Mwamba, and maybe all these great surgeons will get together now and try to do something to move this, possible technology forward. But as it stands today, I'm not going to hold my breath until I see it with my own eyes. And I think that's fair.
It's very fair, but can I make one more comment, please?
No.
No?
Yeah, go ahead.
I wish you would have posed one more question to him. Your staff would have, organized the interview. What can he do for repair patients with this new protocol? That's a question I think should have been asked.
There's no protocol. It's not a new protocol yet. That's the thing. We don't know what the F it is. He explained what Negum claims to be able to do. He also made it clear that at this point, Dr. Negum is really not up to snuff as far as surgical hair restoration is concerned. That's what Dr. Mwamba said. So, we don't know what what can possibly happen for repair patients until that's tested in Dr. Mwamba's office and practice and potentially in other practices. Hopefully Dr. Cole is going to get involved in some capacity. Some other doctors who have contacted me in Europe are very interested in learning more. Everyone's skeptical, but skepticism is good. Healthy skepticism is good. But the fact that they're open to trying it, I think that's terrific. My concern is this. Are these doctors just going to be experimenting with this potential technique, or are they going to be experimenting and promoting the fact that they're experimenting? And will this drive patients to their practices in hopes that they're going to get this procedure done and that they're going to really benefit from it? That's the problem that I have. Anyone who's listening right now, anyone who's in the chat, anyone who's watching through The Bald Truth or GFQLive.tv or listening through iTunes or Stitcher Radio, do not be the guinea pigs, no matter how desperate you are. There are plenty of patients out there that are already signed on the dotted line to have conventional surgical hair restoration with these guys who will probably sign off on having some experimentation done during the procedure. Don't jump on this procedure. Don't be the first ones out there. There are too many patients from other clinics who are now coming online, clinics that are claiming all kinds of things, coming online who are upset, who are complaining, who don't believe that they got what they paid for. So, we allow the conversation to happen, But sometimes by doing that, you kind of create this buzz that, especially for the younger guys, it's difficult for them to differentiate what is, experimental and theoretical and what is actually reality. And at this point, there's very little declarative or just, real specific data showing that this thing works.
One final question. What is your time frame do you think we'll know if this is for real? 6 months?
I would say that you're going to need at least a year with many patients. It has to be performed consistently. You have to be able to replicate the experiment on many different patients in order to confirm that, this works consistently. This can actually be done. You don't want to go in there and promise somebody 80% regeneration when you're only going to get 20%. And you probably would have gotten that 20% anyway with traditional FUE because you're leaving behind, in some cases, telogen hairs that you just that weren't seen during the extraction. Or the guys that are using extremely small punches trying to leave minimal scarring, they're cutting grafts in half in some cases and leaving the rest behind. So there's going to be some regeneration there, or it's going to appear to be regeneration, just that the hairs are just going to continue to grow. So I think it's going to take some real time. But my fear, and I'm pretty sure this is what's going to happen, there will be some doctors out there that are going to jump on this because they see the tide turning. They see the demand on the message forums. And they're going to start claiming specific percentages of regeneration. And then patients are going to go to these doctors based on those claims. And it could take years before we find out that it's all bullshit, if it is bullshit. What do you think, Joe Tillman?
Well, hoping that my microphone doesn't cut out again. I've been having problems listening to you. But here's what I've been taking from this. And what you said about other doctors jumping on board simply for the marketing opportunities, you're absolutely correct. And it reminds me of a doctor whom shall go nameless, including the location where he is. But 15 years ago, he was advertising in a local paper about hair cloning, because 15 years ago there was a surge in hope and dreams about hair cloning, and he took advantage of it and was offering it locally. Matter of fact, hair cloning available now.
Yeah.
And you see like with the donor replenishing, donor doubling, whatever you want to call it, you're going to have all kinds of people jumping on board, just like Spencer said, that are going to try to cash in on this, because two things prevent them from being busted. Number one, how many patients can look in the back of their scalp after they've had X number of grafts removed and say definitively, yes, I've had 20, 30, 40, 60, 80% of regeneration. Zero. No one can say that. Number two, It will be years before it catches up to whoever decides to start offering this. And by the time they get busted, they're counting their money. They don't care.
Well, and that's my biggest concern. And it's tough for us because if we don't allow the conversation, then all of a sudden we're trying to hide the evolution of this industry because we want to hold on to the industry for dear life because we're making so many millions of dollars. I mean, that's what is actually sometimes written online. It's insanity. We're all going to lose so much money because these future treatments are coming down the line. Let me tell you something. It's important that you guys know this. I'm going to repeat myself. When these future treatments come to fruition, I will make much more money than I'm making now. That's just the way that it is.
Yeah,
Spencer Kobren, will not be kicked to the curb. You have to understand that. We're in this industry. We are, we're knee deep in it. And companies and practitioners, they all want to be attached to what we're doing. So it is not a concern for this industry to evolve to a better place. I want it to happen. And I think it's interesting. You even read it on the chat in the chat, It's hilarious. We don't want to talk about, we're talking about transplants because we know if we don't talk about them, we're going to lose a lot of money. It's ludicrous. Believe me, I'd love to get away from transplants if we could. This is what we have today.
Well, the dream is always, for to be able to offer something that is much easier. I mean, if you want to look at it from a business perspective, I mean, obviously, if you can do things like are being claimed, cloning, or not so much cloning, but the doubling and all these things, and everyone wants to have, business wise, a cash cow, and that's what this is. And if you can do it reliably, if you can do it, consistently, and deliver outstanding results, then it's good for everyone. If you can get away from the surgery, if you can do if there's a pill that we can all eventually take, then we're still going to be benefiting financially, because you got to go someplace to get these supplies. You got to go someplace to get these treatments. You got to go someplace to talk to your doctor.
And somebody has to promote them.
Yeah, and someone has to promote them. I mean, it's got to be marketed. I mean, it's, there's so much more involved than simply saying, oh, well, this is the end of hair restoration as we know it because, this technique is out, or this, delivery is now available. I mean, people don't stop and think what's involved. It's such a massive amount of effort that goes into just, this radio show, into, your website, the forums. I mean, so much information is out there and so much effort goes into it that it's almost like trying to turn a battleship on a dime. I mean, it's moving forward, and right. If things can change as far as what's being offered, then it's just good for everyone.
Absolutely, man. And people, I think that you have to understand a lot of guys that are out there who are online. They don't really understand how a lot of industry works, and they certainly don't understand how this industry works. And when I see some of the stuff, like how the hair transplant industry is going under, when the whole thing with Go over the last few years. God almighty, if Go is able to do what he claims he's able to do, then it would just be so wonderful for everybody. But now we kind of see that a lot of people are upset with kind of what's transpired, and with their own personal procedures. And I'm not saying that Go is not doing what he's claiming to do. And I've always said that, at least from the work that I've seen, he's doing pretty clean work. There's no doubt. I mean, he's extremely conservative. The work looks really, clean. There has been some issues that I have seen over the years, even recently, with, graft placement and direction. But that could be not necessarily because of Go. It could be, due to either, technicians or, whoever's placing some of the grafts. But the bottom line is he's doing relatively clean hair transplants on a very conservative level. But is he getting the regeneration that he's claiming? I don't know. There's a lot of people out there that are claiming now that that's not the case. So I just think people need to be extremely cautious. They really do. I'm so glad that Dr. Mwamba is taking a really close look at this. But for the 24-year-olds who think that this is going to end their agony, I just wouldn't hold your breath, man. I would try to figure out a way to live your life with what we have right now. That's not to jump into surgery. That's not my suggestion at all. But,
Spencer, how can we live? We're suffering. Jesus. How can we live?
Joe, I love you, man, and I've kept you on the show for so long, but sometimes I just want to fucking hang up the phone on you when I hear this shit.
Well, you've hung on me for 15 years, man. Where I have you?
I've never hung up on you because I appreciate your loyalty to the show, and like I always say, there's a little bit of Joe in every one of us. All hair loss suffering.
You read the forums. Some people are suffering every day, Spencer. You read the forums. You see what's going on.
Honestly, I try not to read the forums, but sometimes I'm
read them.
Sometimes I'm forced to read the forums, and I usually read the forums right before I get on the air live, and I see what's happening. I certainly see what's happening. I honestly wish that the forums were used better. I really do. I wish more people would be interested in discussing what is available today and how they can figure out a way to live their lives better now, as opposed to hoping against hope for the future and for the end of hair loss as we know it. I think that's going to happen. I know that these treatments will eventually come to fruition, and I know that there are some pretty, well-established companies and physicians who are working on this dilemma right now. So we're going to get there. But I just wish that people would talk about and deal with what we have today,
I agree 100% with that. I mean, Spencer, it has to do with what's available today.
I'm sorry.
You know, Joe, you said something earlier that there are no treatments available. There are treatments available. There's Propecia, there's Rogaine, there's other avenues that people are taking and reporting success. And it's not the treatment that you're looking for. Hair restoration doesn't even provide what you're looking for. You're looking for a full head of hair. The cure is coming, but it's not coming today. And it's not coming tomorrow. It will eventually be here, but when you read the forums and you see people that are talking about the hope and debating about things that they have no idea what they're talking about, this protocol, that protocol, it's all speculation. The stock market would be closed down if there was this much speculation. I mean, it's insane how the theories run off on tangents based on absolutely nothing.
And you're right about that. Absolutely nothing. Really just scraps of information that one guy takes from some website, or maybe somebody misinterprets what I may have said on one of my shows, or what a doctor may have said during an interview. And then everything is completely twisted, changed around, and kind of put into a package that then these guys online take and run with and end up spending, days, hours and hours of their lives arguing about. It is, I have to tell you guys, it's a waste of time. Now, listen, I thank you for the traffic. It's wonderful. It's great. It's obviously great for the site and for everything that we do. It gets more eyeballs to what we're doing, and more people, more reasonable people end up viewing, our broadcasts, and they're coming to the live show, and they're writing us. And believe me, for every person that's out there spending so much time arguing about the potential treatments, future treatments, what's happening now as far as, hair donor regeneration, all that stuff, there are thousands of people that read this stuff and realize, okay, this stuff's not happening right now. Let these guys argue. Let these guys deal with it. I'm going to figure out what I can do for myself today. So while I think it's a waste of your time, I certainly appreciate the passion that's out there and how you guys are just really trying to get to the bottom of your issues. But sometimes I think you're barking up the wrong tree. I'm not saying, just forget about your hair loss and move on. I know that's difficult. But I personally don't think that some of the guys in the message forums are going to find the cure for hair loss in their kitchen sink. I could be wrong.
God knows there's some people trying. I mean,
it's wild. And I appreciate that. I just want to say I do appreciate that. I understand the passion and how desperate people are. So, I can't fault somebody for trying to take the bull by the horn, so to speak. I can't fault somebody for trying to do something for themselves that they think, if they think that they're not going to get to what they think their logical endpoint is, I could appreciate that, but I think reality has to set in at some point.
I draw the line when they start doing surgery on themselves, like a guy that was doing, I guess you call it auto FUE on himself. That's taking it a bit too far.
Yeah. What about, there's a guy I was reading today, right before the show, who's, putting sperm on his head. I mean, who knows? Maybe it's interesting. Maybe he's going to set a trend, and there'll be another 50 guys who do it, and then we're going to find out that these guys are growing hair. Who knows? Maybe they'll be the ones laughing to the hair bank, so to speak.
A lot of tired guys running around after that, but anyway, wow.
I'm just hoping he's using his own sperm.
We can only hope. But hey, maybe it's a whole nother industry evolving that I will have no part of.
Let me tell you something. It is so easy to evolve a cottage industry out of this craziness. It is, I've talked about this on the air a couple of times. I had a conversation with his doctor once, actually twice. And he was just goofing around. He had a couple of drinks, and he was saying that, really all we need to do is claim that we have this solution that is growing hair, and you just have to promote it, charge people X amount of dollars, inject them with, whether it's saline solution or a mixture of their own PRP and saline, and guarantee $10 million the first year. And you know what? We did numbers. You definitely can make that, especially with the right promotion, easily. And just, and by the time you investigate it, just close up shop. And you know how many guys are doing that in some iteration or another?
At least
it may not. A lot more than I care to even discuss. It's frightening out there. And you know what, guys? These guys try to use the message forums. In some cases, they're successful. Mm-hmm. I mean, honestly, man, and I own a message forum. I would take anything that you read on a message forum with a grain of salt. Anything, especially when it's coming from an anonymous user.
It always comes back to the basics for me, and this is what I've always preached. If you can't see clear, consistent before and after results that show actual progress, it's not worth it. It's a waste of money. It's a waste of time. Because if you don't see it in the before and after results, you sure as hell aren't going to see it on your own head.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Guys, I'm going to take a break. It's kind of been a frustrating hour and a half, and I think that I'm not sure Joe is still on the line, but we do have some phone calls. Let me give out the phone number, though. 888-659-3727. That's 888-659-3727. Hopefully the next segment will be a little smoother. Give us a call here if you have any questions, concerns about your hair loss. I want to apologize to Dr. Alan Bauman for the bumpy, interview. I could hardly hear you, dude. So if you're still listening, I apologize. And I apologize to Kerry. But we will do our best to promote Kerry's procedure, because I think it's important. The fact that this guy's willing to go out there, face forward, to talk about having surgical hair restoration is a big deal. And Kerry, if you're watching and listening, I would love to do some interviews with you, just you and me, via Skype. We'll tape it, so it's not going to be live, and we can talk about your situation, maybe watch your progress over the next few months. So, if you want to do that, let me know. 888-659-3727. I'm Spencer Kobren. You're listening to and watching The Bald Truth. Stay with us. I'll be right back. Hey guys, welcome back. 888-659-3727 is the toll-free number. Let's see if we can get the show rolling tonight. There doesn't seem to be a live broadcast, and I'm not apologizing for technical difficulties. This time I'm blaming Andrew. He's going to be 888-659-3727. Apparently there's some issue with their node, and it's cutting in and out for people on the air who are watching online, and also for Joe Tillman, whatever. We're just trying to do our thing here. If you have any questions, concerns about your hair loss, this is your safe place. If you're new to the broadcast, don't know who I am or why I'm here, I'm a consumer advocate and educator for men and women dealing with hair loss. I've been doing this for quite a long time, since 1998. I'm the author of The Bald Truth, the first complete guide to preventing and treating hair loss, and of course, the truth about women's hair loss, what works for preventing and treating thinning hair. Been doing this for a long time. I'm the founder of the American Hair Loss Association and the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons. And, I have seen this industry change over the years in ways that are, they're difficult to articulate. Now, while we haven't really gotten many more treatments in the last 15 years, we have Finasteride, we have minoxidil, we have dutasteride, now we have potentially PRP, some other treatments. Some doctors and some patients believe in low-level laser light therapy. I'm not 100% certain, and I say that because I need to be honest with you guys. We just had an IHS accepted member on the air, Dr. Alan Bauman, who really believes that this treatment is helping his patients. And I have spoken to patients who believe it as well. I have just not, I just haven't seen the clinical data, in my view, that supports it. But I'm not a doctor. I'm just here to give you my opinion. My opinion is I wouldn't do it myself. But people come to me and tell me that it's helped them. So, you know, when you're considering these type of treatments, when you're considering maybe purchasing a low-level laser light therapy device, you know, just realize that at the very least, you're not going to be doing anything that's going to harm you. And when, you know, in this industry, that's a big deal. Not a big deal to lose a little bit of money if things don't work out. But it is a big deal to get fucked by the industry. Either surgically, well, I'm just going to say surgically. Because sadly, there are still so many bullshit practitioners in the surgical hair restoration world. It is effing mind-boggling. Guys who, and these guys are applying to the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons every month. If I were to show you guys some of the applications and some of the letters to apply that I receive, it would, some of it's comical, but some of it is just, it's sad. Because when you check out these guys' websites, when you know, investigate what these guys are doing, I'm talking about even here in the United States still, it's so archaic, I cannot believe it. You know, there are guys out there who are like, you know, when they write about the IHRS or they ask about the IHRS and they're, you know, they ask me, you know, how can there be 60 some odd doctors who are all doing, you know, such good work? Dude, there are thousands now. There are close to 2,000 physicians in North America claiming to do state-of-the-art surgical hair restoration. And many of these guys, I mean, many of them, over 1,000 at this point in the last 10 years, have applied for membership in the IHRS. And I could still only accept about 60 doctors. So 60 is not a lot. It's crazy what's going on out there. And Joe Tillman sees it firsthand on a daily basis.
Day
Joe, I mean,
in, day out.
The stories that you can tell and the stories that I can tell. You know, I think one of the biggest issues is, you know, there are guys out there that are really promoting body hair transplantation in a big way. And I have to tell you, I have seen some home runs. But I have personally seen several disasters, and I have unfortunately been contacted by many patients who believe that they were misled by body hair restoration, body hair transplantation claims. And when you read the stories of these guys, excuse me, and the amount of money that they spent, and they used body hair as an adjunct to their scalp donor hair during their primary procedure, their first procedure. It is fucking mind-boggling that somehow someone is able to sell them that. And I believe a lot of it is being sold online. I see it in the forums. I see a handful of guys out there that may have gotten good results that are kind of frequently, I can't speak, going to all the forums. And, you know, anytime there's a body hair transplant thread, they kind of jump in there and talk about their results. Now, I don't know if this guy... Go ahead.
Let me jump in here. You know, what's interesting is there will be a thread about body hair, and you'll see someone that hasn't been posting for, I don't know, a couple of years suddenly pop in and say, oh yeah, I just happened to be perusing the forums for the first time in such a long time, and I just happened to see this thread. Let me show you my body hair results. The coincidence is astounding that they just happened to stumble across this thread within an hour of it being posted.
With that said, I do believe that these guys who are out there have had exceptional results. They're happy with what was done to them. So I can certainly understand that. Is there some sort of compensation involved? Are they getting free work done? Are they just so passionate about what they've done, or what they were able to accomplish with their body hair transplants? And it's so life-changing. Are they just taking their own time to do this? Who knows? But all I can say is there's stuff we know that works. And if you are in a position where you have enough, native donor hair, enough donor hair from your scalp to be utilized, at least for your first hair transplant, I would say go that route. Go with what we know. Go with, there's always a possibility of complications with any procedure. But why, not take the path of least resistance? At least there's a greater chance of things working out using and having a conventional hair transplant, or I should say using conventional donor. I don't understand.
It all comes back to consistency. It all comes back to reliability. It all comes back to, like I said, working with what we know. Or, working with the hair that we know will provide the best result. And like you said before also, it's like these body hair procedures working, it being performed in the primary session on an otherwise virgin scalp, never been touched, and disastrous results right out of the gate when it could have been a much easier to swallow result if you had just stayed away from the body hair. Repair only, last resort only is when body hair should be used.
But I do admire some of the doctors who are utilizing body hair for these guys who have no other choice. And they're doing it consistently with pretty good, reparative results, as far as reparative surgery is concerned. I think there is a need for it. I think there's a space for it, a place for it in this market. But I just want the young guys to know that, going in and thinking that you're going to get this incredible head of hair because you think you have unlimited body hair and donor hair, I mean, in my view, it's a disaster waiting to happen. Really should be something that's saved as a last resort, and usually for guys who are really fucked up. And I bring that up today because I was recently contacted by a patient who went to someone who's relatively well-known, and does a lot of body hair transplants. Probably not the person you're thinking of. And the guy's at his wit's end. He doesn't really know where to go. He's out of money and he's out of donor. So now he's looking into getting, a system, but the system won't even look, judging from his pictures, the system won't even look natural on him because so much of his hair is wasted that could have been used in the temple region, that now it's going to look like he's got a hair hat on.
So his traditional donor was depleted?
It was depleted, and some of the hair from the sides were used and depleted in a way that I've never seen before.
Really?
It was a total disaster. It was a $80,000 disaster.
I hate hearing that.
$80,000. So I just want all of you guys to know, Joe, I want to talk to you about this. You're a forum guy, so I'm going to talk about the forums. And I know that I said, let's not talk about the forums on the show. I have to talk about it because I'm seeing the way that the forums are evolving, and it's wild to me. There was a time when, at the very least, there were always a lot of passionate guys on the forums, but at least they were talking about and discussing, and I'm going to get back to this point, what was happening in the field, the reality of the field. Now it seems, and I'm going to every forum to check this out to see if it's, if it's happening, if it's just a phenomenon on the Bald Truth or Bald Truth Talk, or if it's happening in other forums. I see it on other forums. It's all about a lot of the nonsense that's going on out there, a lot of the potential bullshit. And there's so much time being spent on this. What do you think that it is? Do you think, I'm thinking that maybe because so many people are afraid or disappointed with finasteride or afraid to start taking it, that they're kind of eliminating that from the equation. And now that that's gone in their mind, that they can't utilize that in their fight against hair loss, they're focusing on these other potential treatments that really may never be treatments. Or, they're just stuff that's being written about online by anonymous users who are buying these gray market goods and experimenting on themselves.
My take on this is it goes back to, the phrase I coined, the dumbing down of the internet. And I don't know if it has so much to do with the with Propecia or Finasteride being taken out of the equation. That might have something to do with it, but I think it has more to do with a lot more fear, uncertainty, and doubt inserted into conventional treatments, to where you do have more of a radical subculture, so to speak, that's kind of growing. And they are looking out for all these alternative treatments that have absolutely no credibility whatsoever. And they're getting, it's a growing movement, talking about this, talking about that, some things I've never even heard of. And it's getting, I've noticed it too. It's getting to be to a concerning level. The traditional treatments are no longer valid in the eyes of a lot of these people. And it's confusing to me. It's like, what is it that you're seeing that makes you think, option B over here is going to be better than the conventional option A? I don't see anything out there that shows.
And that's the thing. There isn't, except that there's a tremendous amount of speculation. And there are guys out there that have unfortunate anecdotal experiences with finasteride, for instance. Yeah. So they're out there beating that drum. And I get that. I was talking to Common Law about it the other day. And we were talking about actually another drug, and a friend of hers had side effects from this other drug, and she then went online and read about it, and it just scared the shit out of her, so she decided to get off of it. Well, she may have been able to muscle through them, but she decided to get off of the drug, and now she's trying to look for alternative treatments. And I was telling her that, I got to tell you that if I was 25 years old today, and I decided to I would have researched finasteride, and there's a really strong chance that I never would have gotten on it because of what's out there, because it's so fucking scary. It's frightening. Yeah. It really is. It really is. And what an incredible disservice I would have done for myself. I mean, imagine, my life would be completely different if I didn't pop that first pill. I would not be behind this microphone right now. I never would have been published. I never would have gotten into this field and been able to get this message out to so many millions of people over the years. And it really, I do give a lot of credit to using, to finasteride, because that is what kind of was able to give me a little breathing room so that I can concentrate on evolving this and developing this, this career. Because it worked. It really did change my life. But if I would have read what was out there, even on Bald Truth Talk message forums, there is a strong possibility that I never would have gotten on that drug. So there's part of me that thinks that by keeping the forum alive, that and allowing these discussions, allowing these conversations to happen. Jesus, I'm getting this buzzing in my ear. That we're helping to perpetuate this potential misinformation and even disinformation.
Yeah.
So what do? You don't want to close the forum because you also want to give people the chance to see the truth. And I'm not saying that people aren't getting side effects, but I'm saying that there's a lot of stuff being blown out of proportion about a lot of things. But by leaving such a well-trafficked and visible resource out there for guys to kind of utilize and get this information out there, whatever information they want, there's a lot of vulnerable people who are reading this information coming from anonymous users, and they may be making the wrong choices based on that information. So what do you do? How do you handle something like that? I think about that all the time.
I think it's an interesting and unfortunate quandary that we find ourselves in. I mean, you and I are both, major believers in the use of finasteride. I mean, it's basically, pretty much responsible for your career. It's responsible for a lot of my career. I mean, being able to hang on to the hair I have. I mean, I didn't have a whole lot more to lose, but I've been a religious taker of it for going on 11 years now, and I think that the only thing that we can be doing is just to continue to be the voice of reason when it comes to this. I mean, I get this question every day, people saying, well, what about the side effects? What about the side effects? And I forgot where I saw the numbers, but there's a statistic out there when you're talking about like erectile dysfunction in men, that if you take a sample group of random people, of say 1 million people, the statistics show that, or 1 million men, more men will have erectile dysfunction naturally than from people that are taking finasteride. 1 million people on finasteride, 1 million people not on finasteride. Right. You'll have more naturally occurring cases of erectile dysfunction in the non-finasteride group.
Yeah, actually, I was talking to Ken Washenik about this at length, and I forgot the exact statistic and the study that he was discussing. So I am kind of just talking about this off the cuff in a sense. But based on what he told me, it's exactly what you just said. There was a specific study that was done, and it showed clearly that for whatever reason, the people in the finasteride group had less incidence of sexual dysfunctions than those who were not in the finasteride group amongst a certain age group. So statistically, what that would show is that finasteride is actually helping people sexually. Now, I'm not saying that that's the case, but if someone were just to look at that particular study, that's what they would come away with. That more people in the finasteride group were able to get it up than the people who were not in the finasteride group.
Right, and that kind of makes sense to me, because if you look at the basics of how this medication works, and again, I'm not a chemist, not a pharmacist, not a doctor, but what it's doing is preventing testosterone from being converted into DHT, which means to me that you have more free-flowing testosterone, free-use testosterone in your system, which, if anything, can help in the gym or can help with the ED issue. And I tend to stay away from reading too much into these things because it can confuse you so much to where you believe that it is the problem. And I look at this stuff just from the evidence that I see day in, day out with patients, my own experience, and I can't help, this reminds me, you're talking about how, like, back in 2006, before these things started coming about online, hearing about these things, there weren't a whole lot of complaints about the issue to begin with. Once a few people went online and talked about it, it seems to have, there's nothing solid about this, but it seems to have kind of grown from that. I mean, I don't really remember hearing a whole lot about it.
There's a specific RX side effect complaint site, or I forgot exactly what it is. I could look it up, but it's a site where basically people go online, they talk about all the side effects that they're dealing with all different types of drugs. And up until about 2005, I think maybe 2006, when you looked up finasteride, Proscar, Propecia, there were a few complaints, very few, but most of them were like transient sexual side effects, or when they got off when they decided to get off the drug, the side effects went away. Then when Propecia Help came online, all of a sudden there were guys from that site, from what I understand, okay, because I think that when I read this a few years ago, that there was one particular person who was linking to that site, but I could be wrong. It could have been another site, another Propecia type of side effect site. But all of a sudden, they came out in droves. And that particular RX side effect website was filled with these stories that we had never heard about before.
Yeah.
Now, is that a coincidence? Now that they've been able to gather all these guys who, I'd say, legitimately are probably suffering from these adverse side effects, but they all kind of got together to get the word out there. Now, I get that. I definitely get that, because I know that if I felt that I was fucked over by this drug, and if I believed that I was no longer able to function normally because I took this drug, I would be pretty pissed. I have to tell you. I may have been, I mean, you know what I've been able to accomplish in my life. I may have been one of those guys spearheading a campaign like this.
I would be, for sure.
Yeah, it's very possible. So I can't blame them. But I think you're right, that it's snowballed based on, in the scheme of things, a handful of guys who either are suffering with these long-term adverse side effects or think that they are. And now it's put the fear of God into everybody. And that in itself, they've accomplished a lot because they've changed the entire industry. There are doctors in this field who no longer suggest using Propecia, but they'll wait till they're asked about Propecia. And then basically read the guy the riot act, give them make them sign a 10-page release saying that they were fully informed about the use of this drug before they write a prescription, because they're so afraid. Now all the lawyers are out. They're out in force. And they see what I consider easy money in the world of, ambulance chasing law. So it's, the internet's a powerful place, man. These guys completely changed the field. And it's changed a lot of the ways that people treat their hair loss, not just medically, but surgically as well. Guys are willing to jump into things that they might not have been willing to do if they were not concerned about just taking this, a pill and hoping for the best, because we know the pill works. So it's a mess, man. I don't know how to change it. I don't think we can. I think it's just that freight train is just, it's just moving so quickly and so powerful at this point. I can't see it changing direction.
It's a strange herd mentality that we run into on these forums and on the web, because one thing I've learned is that when it comes to things like this, one person says it, another person says I heard this, another person that heard them say I heard that too, and it just kind of snowballs, like you said, to the point where perception becomes reality. And it's just amazing how people will argue things that that they haven't experienced themselves. They read about the side effects, or they say I heard this, I heard that, and they don't have any sort of personal experience with it. They might not have even taken the drug, but they're so freaking scared of it that they will repeat everything that they've heard as if it's the gospel. And
it's not, Propecia, obviously, that's what we're focusing on. But what about these guys who are saying that, RU 58841 does this specifically for people, or that, these other gray market products are performing in this way for people, when they may have read about one guy's experience on a message forum, or two guys' experiences on a message forum. And now there are these, it's happening in the public forums, but now there's these private forums where these conversations are going on.
People are getting together and making it themselves.
Exactly. It's wild. It is wild. But again, with that said, it's kind of intriguing. It really shows, how passionate people are about dealing with this issue and how desperate they are. And, I don't know, the whole thing's fucked up. It really is. I'm at a crossroads, and I talk about this publicly. I'm an open book. Sometimes I think to myself, well, I think the forum is important. I really do. I think it gives people the opportunity to really, if they're smart enough to read between the lines, they're going to get the truth. I also think that it is a it's an avenue and a platform for people to mislead other people. But there's only so much of the conversation you can control because you want to allow this conversation to happen. You don't want to, quell this type of discussion because that's what these forums are for.
Yeah, and discussion is always good because eventually the truth will come out to some degree. Hopefully, that's what that's designed to work anyway. And there's. It's kind of trying to find the words. There's some other issues that come up, like, this is something that I've mentioned many times on your forum, is that how, at least in my experience, we don't recommend any of the generics of finasteride versus the name brand. And I have all kinds of evidence that I've seen with my own eyes, and I have patients that have come on and publicly backed me with their own personal experiences, saying that their generic wasn't quite as consistent, and they switched back to name brand, and the result improved, or they were on name brand, went to generic, lost hair, got back on.
Dr. Bauman was talking about that earlier. I mean,
he just verified that for me, that he sees the same thing, and I have people telling me online that I'm full of bullshit. It's like, what possible reason could I have to mislead anyone?
You must be in Merck's pocket. That's the only reason.
Of course, because God knows that I really add to their bottom line. With
I actually had a doctor that went online and claimed he came onto Bald Truth Talk message forums you're talking about. He's one of these guys that panders to these Propecia help guys and basically makes a living off of them. And he went online and said that I am trying to hide the truth, and I'm in Merck's pocket. I don't make a dime from Merck. Merck does not sponsor this program. Merck does not sponsor the Bald Truth. We're not attached in any way, shape, or form, period. There was a time years ago when I was on terrestrial radio, but many, many years ago, that Merck was advertising on those stations. But, they're not putting any money in my pocket. I make nothing from them. I can give a shit if you take Propecia, if you take generic or brand name. It does nothing for me.
Yeah, that's the way it ultimately works out for me. I mean, it's, take what I say about generics versus name brand and make your own decision, but understand that when I say these things, it's because I don't want people to come to me saying, yeah, I'm on Propecia, but I'm still losing hair. Because in my field, what I do, part of the analysis or assessment for surgery is dependent on not only if they're taking the medication, but if it's working. And
absolutely.
5-10 times a week, I get someone telling me, and I've been on medication, hell, 25 times a week. I've been on the medication, but I stopped it because it wasn't working.
Yeah.
Well, were you taking the name brand? No, I was taking a generic. Then try taking the name brand for a change. And I have had people come back and say, I'll be damned if you weren't right. My hair did come back when I went to the name brand.
I will not get off the name brand. Listen, let's take a phone call.
Please.
And you came in a little late, so we can go a few minutes over tonight. Take a couple of calls. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this?
Hey, Spencer, your $1 million check is in the mail, and you should be getting it in about 2 days.
All right, thanks, man.
I am the head spokesman of Merck.
Well, thank you, man. I hope you have the current address.
I'm kidding. It's Vic from D.C.
What's happening, Vic? How are you?
Oh, man, it's crazy. How could people even think you or Joe are making money off of Merck? I mean, that's just crazy.
Well, it's not crazy. I mean, I could make money off of Merck if I decided to contact them and say, hey, listen, we want to do a couple of advertise on our segments, whatever it is. I don't want to go there. I don't want to get involved with that shit. If it's going to be an extra couple $100,000 a year, it's not worth it to me for people to say that I'm promoting poison because I'm getting paid for it.
I personally wouldn't mind. I mean, Merck, call me.
I'll tell them to call you.
I just thought it was crazy that people are thinking that you're making money off of this because, you say it on your show, too. You never force anyone to do anything. But anyways, I just want to call in tonight. It's been a great show. Joe Tillman, man, he looks great on the camera. You look at his hair, You'd never think this guy was ever a Norwood 6.
It's actually it's amazing, and I've seen the guy in person, and he's even taller in person than he is on the air. But his hair is, I mean, it's impressive, dude. It really is. I was really scrutinizing the guy, and I got to tell you, man, I would never know. I would never have known it was a hair transplant. I mean, when I get really, really close, I can see some of the telltale signs that no one else who's not in the industry would be able to see. But at a social distance, I'm talking about, 5 inches away, or I guess that's not even social. That's a little close. You can't.
Let's not go there, Spencer. Okay.
Can't see shit. Well, we were loaded that night.
I was going to say, was this pre or post Jack Daniels?
Yeah. No, but really, it's not. It doesn't look like a comb over. It doesn't. I mean, he doesn't even paint his head. I paint my head.
It looks amazing. It looks amazing. I mean, no one would ever guess a Norwood 6. I mean, it's amazing. But the thing, what couple questions tonight? These are questions that I had on my mind. I mean, even though I'm not a candidate for surgery, I still like to read and stay up to date. So one thing is, I was reading on a forum recently, they say whoever gets a transplant, it's ideal for them not to cut their hair short. They say, now, is that true or false? I mean, they say never to cut it below a number 2, otherwise people can really tell it's a transplant. Is that false? Or, I mean...
I'm going to let Joe answer that question, and I'll give you my opinion.
Well, were you talking about cutting it on top and the back, or both?
Absolutely. On top, they say the recipient, they say, is looks weird if it's
okay. I know what you're talking about. What you're referring to, or what they're referring to, is when you have a hair transplant, and all these thousands of little holes are punched in your head, for lack of a better, and hair placed into them. When it heals, in some cases, the recipient's scalp will not heal smoothly. It will not return back to its pre-surgical appearance. You can have what's called the orange peel look. You can have pitting. You can have cobblestoning. God forbid, you can have ridging. All these various forms of scarring that are revealed visually when the hair isn't long enough to cover it. I've seen it hundreds and hundreds of times. My own scalp from my old 2 procedures before I went to Dr. Wong had that same issue. Not so much the orange peel or something that was very obvious. It was mainly the pitting that was occurring from the procedure that I had. And honestly, a lot of that comes down to technique. It comes down to the size of the instruments and the type of instruments being used. And that does have a big part in how the scalp heals. So what you're being told by people you're talking to or reading about, that is true in a lot of cases. A lot of cases it's not. But it depends on where they went, depends on the kinds of tools that were used, the size of the tools, and the usual arguments. But yeah, there's some truth to that.
Okay. Because I was getting my dinner from Boston Market, and the guy who was serving me, what happens is when you're a sufferer, you look at everyone's head. I mean, that's just
right.
Life. And so I never like to make it obvious because that makes people uncomfortable, and that's just not good. But I had a quick
unlike when Joe was at my house.
We were like a bunch of damn apes just pawing through each other.
I was like, stop staring at my fucking hairline, dude.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Kind of weird, but yeah.
And I knew absolutely this guy had a hair transplant. And he looked at me and he gave me the look like, okay, buddy, I've had a hair transplant. Let me just give you your food and you can get the hell out of here. So,
the guy at Boston Market, the guy behind the counter had the hair transplant?
Yep.
Or not the counter, but the server or what?
Oh, they're paying a lot at Boston Market nowadays, I guess.
Wow, apparently. Yeah. Was he an older guy or younger guy?
He was probably 35.
Okay.
That's just a guess.
Wow.
But
so you were looking at an obvious hair transplant, a bad hair transplant.
Well, the thing is, no one else caught a glimpse of it. Again, a sufferer will always look at a person's head.
We
So
know,
no one else,
brother. We know. We can point it out.
He knew because he knew. He looked at me and he saw that I'm a freaking Norwood 7 bald. So he knew that I look at people's heads. So it was like a silent agreement that I'm not going to say anything more. I'm just going to take my food and walk out.
Just kind of nod. Yeah. It's like Fight Club. First rule is you don't talk about Fight Club. For hair transplants, first rule, you don't talk about hair transplants.
Oh yeah. So
Transplant Club.
I'm glad that I called to ask you that, because I was starting to wonder, is that the case for everything? Because I'm so glad Spencer talked me out of it, because I'm already super bald. But my second question to you is, if you were to stop finasteride today, would your recipient be the same as it would with finasteride, or are you just on finasteride just to help keep like a couple of the non-transplanted areas strong?
It's a very good question, Vic. If I were to stop taking Propecia today, God forbid, my recipient hair or the transplanted hair should theoretically stand the test of time. And I have every reason to believe that. However, my pre-surgical state was, it's not an exact placement on the Norwood scale, but about a 6.5 if there were a 6.5. In other words, I was not a 6 because a 6 has hair in the parietal humps, which are kind of like the little triangles that come up on the sides of the scalp, not quite connecting in the middle. And mine were completely gone. And my sides are down to, if I'm looking at the camera correctly, right about here. So the top of the sides were also rebuilt. And I wouldn't want those to go any further down to that of a full 7. And I wouldn't want my crown to open up anymore. My crown was pretty big, but it wasn't as big as it could have been. And there is a little bit of hair in the bottom of my crown. And if you take the circle of the crown and draw a line through the middle, the bottom half still has some native hair. Not much, but let me tell you, at my stage, every little bit helps. And so I do want to hang on to that. And yeah, I mean, if I were to stop taking the medication, in 2 years, I would look different, only because I'd have to cover the sides a bit more. My crown would be a bit more exposed, and it would just continue to get worse.
Okay, so it might be almost like an island effect. In due time, could be.
Not a very obvious one because I've had so much work done, but yeah, it's same principle.
Okay. Well, hey, thanks to you and Spencer for taking my call. Again, your hair looks phenomenal. I mean,
thanks, Vic.
Really, it's great.
All right, man.
For the call,
Vic, have a good night.
Appreciate it.
Man.
Good talking to you.
Take care.
All right, we're gonna pot up Joe, and then we're gonna call it a night. Joe.
Stress, you mad at me or something, man? I feel terrible.
Why?
I don't know. I don't know. I feel bad. I feel like you're mad at me. When I was asking Joe these questions, you seemed a little upset.
I'm sad about that. First of all, I'm never really mad at you, so deal with it. Deal with the fact that we're dealing with a lot of technical issues, and if I think the show is going in a direction that I don't want it to go, I'm just going to tell you. That's it.
No, I would just say
it's like if you were my brother, I would give you shit, right? So just don't worry about it. Don't take it personally.
No, I'm not offended. But just your phones are very weak, to tell you the truth. I hear you very, very softly.
It's interesting because
work on that.
Because Suncast actually went online and to listen to the phone. He said it's fine. He says he thinks it's your phone.
Raise my phone?
That's what he says. He actually called in to listen after you made that comment, and he said that the phones are strong.
I don't know. For some reason, I'm hearing you weekly. Now, I just want to say something quickly to Joe. I just found it very interesting that he said a virgin donor area, if you got plugged, I'd never heard of it before. That's very encouraging for me. I never heard that.
I told you this before, Joe. I mean, We talked about this a couple years ago, and I told you this because I've seen it many times where yeah, the hair is taken out with plugs, but the tension's the same because the strip wasn't removed. So the laxity is literally like that of a virgin scalp. Now, it doesn't mean automatically that it's great laxity because some people naturally have tight scalps. But yeah, I mean, in general, it's the same as it would have been or close to it had nothing ever been done, period.
Well, that's very interesting. It's very interesting.
Yeah,
I want to thank you,
plug
Joe.
patients are surprisingly good candidates. Surprisingly good. I mean, not every time, but there's a lot of time plug patients don't realize that there is a strong option with a strip surgery.
Dude, listen,
he's 504 millimeter plugs taken.
Dude, the guy will never ever get repaired. He will never or try to help himself.
This is for everyone else's benefit because I know Joe won't actually step up and do anything. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but
sometimes I wonder, Joe, what would you do if you did do something? I mean, it was like you may not have anything to bitch about if you were helped.
No, but Joe gave me a lot of encouragement. I'm seriously thinking about it now that he told me that I have a virgin scalp in the back. That a virgin what's the word, like
laxity?
Yeah, well,
all these years.
Well, you never had a strip, right?
No, I had no strip surgery.
Okay, so yeah. So basically it is like having a virgin scalp because there was no piece of tissue removed and there was no tension. You know, there was no closure, there's no tension. There was nothing actually as far as, a big piece of your scalp removed. So yeah, it's like having a virgin scalp. Yeah, they're going to have to work around the punches, but they can remove that strip with all those punches in there and remove and dissect follicular units out of that strip.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've examined the back of my scalp in the mirror, and I've seen there's tiny hairs in between the what we call the eraser, like these circles. There's hairs in between, all around.
Mm-hmm. Those could all be utilized.
Taken out as a bonus.
Yeah.
Am I correct in that analysis?
Well,
Joe?
if you get the strip removed, you're going to remove all of that scar tissue with that strip. And then they're going to be able to dissect that strip under a microscope and take out whatever follicular units are in that surface area that's removed. And that could be a lot. Who knows? You can get depending on the size of the strip, you may have 1,000 or so grafts in a strip, even if it appears to be depleted from punches.
Yeah. And with the punch grafts, they didn't usually go too far up on the sides. And if you have decent donor hair there, I mean, a good clinic that knows how to utilize strip can take it up on the sides, and that's another virgin donor area.
Usually in back in the day, they kind of used, it was almost like a squared, like a rectangle area straight in the center of the back of your scalp. Yeah. And that's what they concentrated on when they removed the punches.
Well, my side. One quick thing, please. My sides are virgin. The front above before the ear. That's all virgin area.
What about above the ear? About 2 inches.
Above the ear, in front of the ear, but behind the ear is where.
Directly above the ear.
Well, virgin.
Straight up.
Right. Well, that's very interesting. I appreciate that.
Okay, Joe.
I want to say you guys look great together on the screen. You're two very handsome men.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
I got to say you are the handsomest.
Oh, you have to say that. It's your duty to say that.
You're my boss, right? I have to say that.
That's right. Otherwise, you'd be out of here.
Don't say that, Spencer, please. You want me to jump off the roof tonight or what?
You see that? I can't. Joe, what happens when I stop doing the live show? I told you that there's a strong possibility that I'm going to be doing less and less live broadcasts. What are you going to do?
Well, Jerry will take over. I casted Jerry on the phone on Friday for 3 hours. We were on the phone, me and Bald Jerry.
Oh yeah, you can do a live chat every week, Joe.
I probably could have.
You
and Jerry on the phone for 3 hours.
And your insane minion can do whatever you need to do.
And I mean, corresponding with Artista 5 times a day.
No, listen, I'm just joking about you guys. I think it's great that you guys are so involved in the show and that you like to hang out in the chat. And it's interesting, though, to sometimes read what you guys write about and chat about?
Well, I don't post anything. I just, I have no time for bullshit. I deal with facts. I don't deal with the innuendo like this guy's in the forum. But I just say very quickly, guys are desperate out there, and it's getting worse and worse by the day. People are going berserk. They're sandpepper in their heads. You know what's going on.
All right. So what do you think is going to happen if I decide to retire, Joe? Honestly, what's your opinion?
You decide to retire?
I told you that I am considering it. I've been doing this for a very long time. I'm at a point in my life where I don't know if I want to do this anymore. I still enjoy, counseling people who are interested in the truth and, learning about the reality of what's happening today. But as I see what's happening and how things are evolving online, there's a part of me that doesn't even want to be, involved in it anymore.
Well, why, Spencer? How would you make a living? I mean, how would you be able to live?
I don't have to worry about that. Just don't even worry about that. Forget about money. I'm talking about just doing what I do. What happens if I decided not to do this anymore? What would you do with your life?
Well, to be honest with you, Spencer, I've been a hair loss sufferer since 1976. You initiated, you came there in 1998. I survived, Well, you're a bonus in my life. You're a big bonus.
I'm glad that
really
you said that.
Stay alive, but
I'm glad that you said that.
Go back in. I'd be institutionalized probably for a month if you went off the air. To be honest with you.
I'm glad that you said that because you just gave me my walking papers, and I appreciate that.
No, but you didn't hear what I said.
What?
I'd be institutionalized for a month at least, initially, after you went off the air.
It's only a month. You have 3 squares a day. Maybe you'll get some exercise.
You just gave him his walking papers, so that's what he needed.
So thank you, Joe.
Maybe Joe could hire me as a consultant. I don't know what.
Joe just
he could perform a miracle on me and be his best commercial going.
Joe, you just pulled the plug for me, and I appreciate that.
No, Spencer, I didn't mean that. I was just kidding. God forbid you went off the air. Millions of people depend on you every day, Spencer. They look forward to your shows. A lot of you literally saved. Remember I said you had met your Yom Kippur, you have very few sins to atone for, you've helped so many people. Remember my message?
Yeah, yes, I do, and I appreciate that.
You have no sins to atone for. 99% of hair loss people in the hair loss industry have destroyed lives. You're the only one of the few people like you and Joe Tillman who have saved lives. You know what I'm trying to say? God forbid you leave, Spencer. I personally, I don't know what I'll do. I may just end it all, but all those other people probably just throw in the towel.
Well, maybe I'm just
like Kerry, like Ratty, like Granger. The list goes on and on.
Maybe I'm just kind of, training Joe and Specs to take over. How would you feel about that?
Well, could they hire me as a news reporter or something like that?
Yeah, we could.
I work cheap.
We could figure something out.
You know that, Spencer.
You'd probably be grandfathered in, Joe. You're kind of an institution on the Bald Truth Talk radio.
That's true.
Well, I appreciate that, Joe. But tell you, Joe, you gave me a lot of hope time. I'm really thinking about this now. I never knew that before.
Just take a look at Joe. Look, Joe's room is a little dark, but you can see on one side he's a little bit more well lit, and you can see the quality of his hair. You can see the shine. That's something you can't fake that, dude. So that's what a good hair transplant can do for somebody. That's real. That's what and yeah, if there was a bright light shining right on top of his head, it's going to look thinner, but he'd still have that shine. That's good quality, full terminal hair that has 100% of that's been transplanted.
Mm-hmm.
So when Joe, for years you're telling me how you can't get a natural look, you can't get a full looking head of hair. That is bullshit, and I've been trying to tell you that. And maybe it's I should have Joe Tillman on more often so that more people can see what he looks like.
But the fact is, Spencer, I have a depleted donor area. I don't have a virgin donor area. I hear these great things about body hair. All the time.
Joe Tillman,
doctors,
take a look at Joe. Take a look at Joe Tillman.
Then I hear people say it doesn't work. I don't know what to believe.
Look at Joe's before pictures online. The guy was jacked. I'm sorry, Joe, but you were.
No, it's true. I looked like an idiot. I felt like I looked like an idiot. But
you were a guy that had a bad hair transplant, and you were significant, and you were seriously like you were full-blown Norwood, never coming back. That was it. Nobody would think that a guy in your position could have been repaired at this level.
You know what? The clinic didn't think I could be repaired to this level. because every time I'd come back in after 9 months or a year after the previous surgery, I'd tug on my scalp and I'll be damned. My scalp is loose again. Let's do it again. And yeah, I mean, like I've said numerous times, I am kind of an exception to the rule as far as the amount of work that I've had done. But it does show that extreme cases can be brought back from the brink.
And Joe's not an extreme case. That's the thing. According to at least one physician that Joe had a consult with, he's repairable. And he's not as bad as he says that he is on the air. I can guarantee you.
Was that Alan Feller?
Yeah, I can guarantee if you let Feller do a couple of sessions on you, you would look like a different person.
But he told me he couldn't do a strip on me. He told me my only option was FUE. So I'm hearing all different stories.
Well, you know what? Joe doesn't know exactly what your options are either. Maybe if you went to the clinic, they would say, oh, we can't do a strip on you. Or maybe Alan, for whatever reason, felt in his hands it was something that he didn't want to tackle. Maybe he felt he would prefer just to, cherry pick grafts and do FUE. Who knows?
And Dr. True wanted to give me beard hair transplants with FUE. So I don't know what to think. He said I put in a great beard.
Look, let me tell you something. It's called the practice of medicine for a reason. And each individual, every doctor practices medicine differently. And just because there is something considered state of the art, and obviously they all go to the meetings and they see what each different practice is doing. Doctor gets when a doctor decides or a surgeon decides to perform surgery, he's going to add his own nuance to the procedure. That's just the way that it is. So in one person may be able to, or believe they may be able to do something in their practice that another person just doesn't think is possible. And it doesn't mean that one doctor is necessarily better than the other, just that they have different approaches. So that's the thing. That's the thing about medicine. That's the thing about cosmetic surgery that's kind of scary, because you can end up having 5 different consultations with top doctors and get, either slightly different assessments of your situation to completely different suggestions about what to do.
Yes, I did. One guy wanted to actually cut all my hair out. You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know. You call him the mortician.
That was me. Want to actually cut all the hair on top of my head. That was kind of like horrifying.
Yeah, but this is a man. This is a man who's comfortable in his own skin, who's able to live with a shaved head. So in his mind, he believed that you would look better with a shaved head and have the scarring repaired, so that you can walk out in the world looking like you had nothing done and you were just a naturally balding guy. That's not a terrible option for a lot of guys. There are guys out there who have had plugs like you, Joe, who would love to be fixed so they could be in that position.
The only thing that prevented me from shaving my head before I got repaired, it wasn't the 2 scars in the back of my head. Yes, 2, like this. It was the graft work that was done, because I knew that if I shaved it, the next day I'd have really thick tree trunk type stubble sticking on my hairline. And that was what I was concerned about. Had I been able to get rid of that, if I had known about electrolysis or whatever what could have removed them, I wouldn't be sitting here today. I'd be a head shaver.
And what do you think? How do you think your life would be? What do you think you would have done with your career?
You know what? I'd probably be a photographer, because that's my hobby. And yeah, I'd be something creative. Broke. I'd be damn broke. I'd be.
You never know. No, end up being like Ansel Adams. You never know.
The wedding photographer, but no, it's it's an interesting proposition. Where would I have been had I not gone down the road that I did? Had I been able to turn into a head shaver? And yeah, I don't know, but I'm glad I didn't, because and we've had discussions about this before. The decisions we make in the past make us the people we are today, and I like the decisions I've made, even the mistakes I made, which I look at as learning experiences. I wouldn't change anything. I wouldn't change the fact that for 9 years throughout my 20s, which is when we're, pretty much the most vulnerable as adults, that I looked ridiculous. I wouldn't change that because it allowed me to build up enough fortitude to where I can speak to anyone in any situation. I can get up in front of a crowd of 1,000 people if I need to, not a problem. A little bit of jitters, but I can do that. I can face
That's what beta
uncomfortable. I'm sorry?
That's what beta blockers are for.
Yeah, and alcohol.
Right.
But no, I mean, these are valuable experiences that have taught me how to handle myself in just about any situation. And so I wouldn't take that back for anything. It's invaluable experience.
I feel the same way about my life. And the fact that I've talked about something, especially back in the late 90s when no one was talking about it, and put myself out there vulnerable for everyone, basically showing my ass, letting people know that I am suffering with hair loss, that I'm unhappy with the fact that I've been dealing with hair loss for these many years, that I treat my hair loss with medication and eventually makeup on my head. Now, I mean, I can say anything to anybody. I don't give a shit. I have no concerns because once you put something like this out there, I mean, you see more people are willing to talk about it. We have this broadcast, but it's still weird for people. It's still weird for people. If I'm at a social gathering, if I'm out with people, say, who are in the entertainment industry here in Los Angeles or, some other business, it's weird. They always have this uncomfortable chuckle when you tell them that you paint your head. They don't know what to make of it.
It's fun for me now for people to ask me, oh, hey, what do you do? Hey, I'm Bob. Nice to meet you. Hey, Joe. Dan, nice to meet you. What do you do for a living? I'm a consultant for a hair transplant clinic. Crickets. You can hear crickets for like 5 seconds because they don't know how to respond to that.
And they also think that you're like selling, like you work for Hair Club. They don't know what to think.
Yeah.
I'm going to my 30th high school reunion soon in a few weeks. And I remember, I've been going to all the reunions, but I would say it was probably what is that buzzing? I would say it was probably my 20th reunion when, I was already involved in this career for a few years. And people thought that I was selling wigs. They had no idea they couldn't comprehend that you can go out there, get on the radio, talk about the emotional aspects of hair loss, educate people about the hair loss industry, give people a platform to discuss an issue that the world doesn't allow us to discuss, and make a living from it. It's always like, well, what do you sell? I don't sell anything. Well, I mean, how do you talk about hair loss? What do you talk about? People do not understand it. And after a while, I'm just like, I kind of like the fact that no one gets it.
Yeah.
The people that get
it's
it.
Unique.
Yeah, people that get it tune into the show and they understand it. Now, listen, it's late, guys. It is. I don't know, Joe. Do you have time? Do you want to take one more call, and then we'll call it tonight?
Yeah.
All right.
No, not really, Spencer.
Okay, I'll put you on hold then, Joe.
Oh, you want to take a little more call?
Jesus.
And Spencer, I got to say, are you lifting right now? Because your arms are looking kind of jacked.
I have been. Thank you for noticing.
Yeah.
You should see my chest. Anyway, you're on the air.
No, thanks.
Hey, man, you're on the air.
It's the Bald Truth After Party.
Marcus, what's happening, man?
Marcus.
Let's twerk. Let's twerk. Come on. Guys, you were hitting on so many topics today. I mean, one of them is that cheap person, $80,000. That means I'm due what? A $40,000 rebate?
Yeah.
Spencer?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. So check it out. I got to confide in you because, I can be brave for only so long, but man, I've had some traumatic experiences.
What?
And I suppose I'm calling tonight because this is my opportunity to be the alter ego. Yes, I'm Marcus, but this show allows me to step outside of myself, lose the self-conscious a bit, and laugh at what I've been through because it's been ridiculous. I'll just give you a flavor. I had a house visitor, an apartment visitor. I've known this person for a long, long time. And he says, oh, I'm sorry, I'll get out of your hair now. Now that you have so little of it left.
Ouch.
Oh, ouch.
Then, so that was wearing on me.
No, but how long did you know this guy? Because you've been going through these procedures and dealing with this for so many years. Does he know about does he know your background? Does he know what you've been through?
No.
Okay.
No. There are very few people who know that, and they're in my immediate family.
Right.
And one other confidant. But other than those people, no. And here's the hilarious thing, though. This guy, he's a black dude, and he's trying to, basically tap back into the ghetto because he's been Ivy League educated. And so now he's growing out some dreads.
Yeah. And
he's getting braids. But the deal is this. His sister tells me that those are extensions.
Of course they are.
Mm-hmm.
Most brothers and, black women, when they have long hair, they're wearing hair. It's a huge market.
Mm-hmm.
I bet.
That's the way that...
I saw it firsthand.
Yeah.
So with that backdrop, I had to make a presentation for an industry that I'm entering in right now. And it was in front of about 300 people. And so that morning I figured, okay, I'm going to paint my head. Now, unlike you, Spencer, you can do a sculpture, but my hair is so thin, I'm on the canvas. All right?
Right. I hear you.
And I ran out of derm match. So I had, as a backup, thank God, is it kabuki or kabuki? What is it?
Kabuki? Is that how you pronounce it?
Kabuki.
Yeah.
Kabuki? Yeah, something like that.
Okay, kabuki. So kabuki sent me a trial size of their fiber. And I was sprinkling it on, and this is like an hour before I have to do the gig. I'm sprinkling it on, and I got to tell you, I have such little coverage in the back still. After all these procedures, all the HT, all the scalp reduction, you name it, and it looks like a bad rash back there. I mean, I'm sprinkling stuff on. I say, this looks horrendous, man. I can't stick my head outside. Forget appearing in front of, a conference. I can't put my head outside my apartment door.
Yeah, you're going to look like Joe Gorga from the Housewives of New Jersey.
There you go. And so it's full mode panic now. And I'm just saying, okay, F it. I get in the cab to go down to the show, and I stop at a synagogue along the way. Now mind you, you know my full name, Spencer, and my mother at devout Catholic.
You are not telling me that you went in and you got a yarmulke for yourself.
You know it. You know it. But
come on.
Here's the deal. The synagogue was closed. Okay?
Oh man.
And so I'm telling this guy.
Well, what day was it?
I said, this is like this was a Thursday, and I had to speak at 5:30 in the evening.
And okay, well, you could have gone downtown to to Lower East Side, pick one.
Well, I was telling this guy, let's stop at every synagogue along the way because I live on uptown, and this was in Midtown, and I don't know where all the synagogues are, but we were doing our little Google thing and so forth. Couldn't get a yarmulke, and I'm really now feeling. I mean, seriously, my pits were just working overtime. I'm hating the whole situation, and so I spent that entire event, a place where you really want to work the room like a politician and start, come on, because whatever you do when you go out there, it's about money, right?
Right.
You're making business. And it's hard to do that when you're thinking simply about what the heck is on your head.
Yeah.
I was looking for shadows. I was looking for dark corners. I was constantly standing as close to a wall as I possibly could with the wall behind me so that nobody would see this quote-unquote rash.
Right.
And I was fully prepared to tell anybody that they said, hey, well, what happened to you back there? I was going to tell them, yeah, I got a rash, But I will say this much in defense of kabuki. I put it pretty much all on top, And you know what? Nobody once looked at my hairline that event.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
So it worked.
So what? Let me ask you a question, Marcus. You've been dealing with this for so long. You're a man in his early 50s, right?
I'm 55.
55. So, all
There you
right.
go.
So you're in mid-50s now. Did you ever consider possibly getting a yarmulke piece, like a small, lightweight lace system that you can put back there and just deal with that?
Well, Spence, as I told you once, that denial is better than depression. However, denial does not trump reality. And whether, when you take your photographs or because Joe, I think you mentioned earlier, or one gentleman mentioned that he was afraid, Kerry, I guess it was, he was afraid to take a picture of himself.
Yeah, I'm gonna
and so
here's
the reality
here's
is
a
such.
Kerry.
So the reality is such that a yarmulke, that was just a stopgap measure, Spence. That really wouldn't, quote unquote, satisfy me. And I've had to seriously think in the last couple weeks of, hey, you know what? Maybe I really should run for a piece.
I don't think it's a bad idea, especially if you're 55 years old and you've been through all of this. You can really, it could be life-changing. It really can. It could be so lightweight. It could be something that you don't even realize you have on. And no one, if it's done correctly, especially if you're wearing it behind a natural hairline, no one's going to look twice. Now, do you wear your hair? Do you have your natural color? Do you have gray in your hair?
I do have gray in my hair. And you know what? These last couple of weeks, man, I've been sliding under a hat more simply because of what I've been through the last couple of months.
Yeah.
My feeling is this: if I were to do a piece, I'd probably go Elton on it and just do the whole thing. Forget these little, top hats.
You might. I'm going to tell you, man. When it comes to hair pieces, and I put this guy's name out there all the time because he was very open with it. But a friend of mine, Kent Emmons, who has since had a hair transplant, is no longer wearing a piece. When he was going to be on television, he had like 4 months before he had to get on the air. Contacted me, said he wanted to get a hair transplant. Told me why he wanted to get it done, and I said, "Listen, dude, you don't have time. Let's get you into a lightweight piece." He wore that thing for like 3 years. He told everybody, because everyone's like, well, you look so different. First thing he would say is, I'm wearing a piece. But it was so lightweight. You could actually see his scalp. When the wind blew,
right.
It looked like it was growing out of his head because he had like maybe 50 or 60% density. I think less is more. I really do. You can pull it.
Agree.
You might be able to pull an Elton John, situation. I don't know. But I could tell you that it's going to be a lot more difficult to pull that off than a small, lightweight system.
I hear you. I'm still not there yet, simply because I feel, although I may be just kidding myself, that I have too much hair on my head to wear a wig, but not enough to be satisfied.
Yeah, I can tell you that if you have a hairline, you're willing to remove some of what's behind that hairline, or if it's not a substantial amount of hair behind that hairline, placing hair behind it, it could end up being life-changing for you. It really could. And at your stage in life, I don't think there's going to be a woman on the planet, even if she's 25 years old, that will give a shit. She'll completely understand.
No, I hear you. Question, though. What about the solvents, these adhesives and so forth? Just how medically safe are they?
No one has any idea. There are guys who've been wearing hair for 30 years who are using silicone-based glues. We know that anything that you put on your scalp, there's going to be some systemic effects to some degree.
Right.
But who knows? Who knows?
Yeah. I hear you, because all I can say is this: despite all my tribulations, look, if you're going through this in your 20s right now, you've got some real options out there, kids. You've got some treatments, whether they be medicines and or these new advanced techniques. I would have been so much better off in the hands of somebody in 2012, 2013 than where I was in 1993.
And that's what these kids don't get. They can't grasp that for some reason. They're so desperate, and they think that there's nothing out there for them. Dude, we are old school. what we had was just bullshit.
Absolutely. Listen, and I basically, suffered the onslaught of it. And, Propecia today, I still don't take it simply because, one, as I told you that I've had some prostate cancer in my family, and I've been told, and I heard what George said on this program, that taking Propecia could, if you do end up getting prostate cancer, it could be the aggressive form of prostate cancer.
Well, it was one study, and that study was refuted.
Refuted?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, when was it? Was it this year? Joe,
I think it was early this year. Early this year, yeah.
A new study came out and said that study was actually incorrect. So now they're claiming that it could be used prophylactically to prevent.
Okay, that may make me and force me to reconsider. The other aspect that troubles me with Propecia is not these sides. Hey, look, if you're having sides and you can discontinue it and the sides are reversible, then so what? I mean, you might as well try it. And there's nothing, let's not kid ourselves, there's nothing more stimulating than a good head of hair to both yourself and the woman you're with. So I don't know what these guys are thinking. However, you have mentioned, and others have as well, that, you could experience a shed with Propecia. And frankly, I don't know if I'm emotionally bulletproof anymore.
That's tough for some people. That's very tough for some people. I've had people call me freaking out, saying, "I started this 3 months ago, and now my hair's falling out all over the place. I don't know what to do." And I have to try to calm them down and say, "Well, this is expected for some people. It does happen, but chances are it's going to come back stronger than it was before the shed began." And
but if you have,
we can read that and talk about it as much as we want, but until you go through it yourself, you have no idea how horrifyingly scary that is.
Yeah. Oh, and listen, I've experienced it either with minoxidil or just in the past when I had natural shedding, and it's no fun. But Joe, you also have to appreciate that right now I have such limited supply everywhere. Because I've been farmed out by so many procedures, and what I have, I'm just, like that proverbial person, hanging on by the fingernails, or in this case, by, the strand of the hair.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I honestly, man, if after hearing your yarmulke story, which is a great story, by the way,
it is.
If I were you, I would really just look into it. Really, consider trying something. If you want to contact me directly, I can. There's places online you can buy stuff really inexpensively. You can buy. You can buy like just to play with it in the house. Spend a couple of $100 and just maybe put some tape on it and just wear it in the house. See if you can get it styled in. Even if it's not the exact color, and then that'll kind of give you a little bit of a feel for what it is.
Well, Marcus, what's your hairline situation like? You do have a hairline, right?
I do have a hairline. It's not the greatest, but it's holding. It's a little bit high in the temples. But you know what? When Gary Hitzig saw me, because I went to investigate his A cell, he thought that was basically the best part of my work that was done on me. The back, in some ways, is more scarier than anything else, primarily because also with these scalp reductions, the nape, the hairline in the back on the neck, the nape of the neck, I mean, it is so ridiculously high that I have to wear the hair long, much longer than it should be.
Yeah.
Just for that.
Yeah, that's because of the did you have a brandy lift?
No, I didn't. You mean the Brady?
No, the Brady. The brandy.
No, the brandy. I'd like to have a brandy right now, but what is this brandy you're talking about?
Dominic Brandy. He did something. He was pretty well known and notorious for the brandy lift, which is basically a complete scalp lift. They detach the scalp. You lose the entire integrity of your scalp. It's changed and shifted, and they just kind of move everything up. And a lot of people are left with kind of like a donut around their ear and a very high nape.
Gotcha. Yeah, well, I have behind Nate, but no, it wasn't Dominic. I was in the hands of what I call the Botch brothers, the butchers of Toronto, Canada, hinterlands, Martin and Walter.
Okay. So, I mean...
You know those guys, right?
Yeah, I mean, we know them well. I don't even know. I don't think Martin is still practicing.
I've heard the name.
I don't know if Martin's still.
Right.
I don't know if Martin's still alive.
Okay.
He may be. So, Martin, if you're listening, I'm sorry. You may be alive. I haven't heard about you in a long time.
Marcus, my point from asking about your hairline was that if you have a hairline that looks good enough, then excuse me, that opens up a lot of opportunity for you with what Spencer was talking about, with putting some hair behind it, because that's the ultimate result as far as putting hair on your head, is having a natural, a real hairline. You got a real hairline, you can pull off a lot more than you realize. I've seen it. We've done it. I mean, we've had guys that have, that are committed to wearing hair systems, and they've proven it by, wearing them for 20 years. We won't do this for someone that's never worn one, or like a 25-year-old, but we've transplanted a high density, really nice hairline, maybe a few centimeters back, and then they put a system behind it, and it's unbelievable how well it works out. Not that I'm encouraging everyone else to do this, but if you have no other options, and putting hair on your head is something that you're considering,
Joe,
having a hairline of real hair in front of it
here's a question,
is the ultimate way to wear hair.
If you do that, if you just put something in behind the hairline, what are you doing? Are you shaving the crown and then applying the piece?
Yes. You would definitely have to, Joe's back. We definitely have to shave. You don't necessarily have to shave the entire crown, but you can have to at least shave the areas where you're going to attach the system. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult to use.
Okay.
So, it all depends on how much hair you have back there.
Right. And how damaging is a piece to your natural hair? Like, case in point with extensions, supposedly extensions can cause some damage.
Yeah,
to
it could be damaging. It really depends on, how you place the system, what attachment method you're using. But the truth is, if you're gluing the exact same area, there is going to be, there's no doubt there's going to be the potential for damage. Now, I've heard some physicians say that it actually causes a change in the appearance and the texture of the scalp, which I also heard can be reversible, or grafts can be implanted in that area. Not everyone's going to deal with issues with a hairpiece, but some guys are.
Right.
And it really depends on how you react to the glues. You may do better with certain tapes. They're all different types of attachments. If you're wearing something just in the back, tape may really work.
Possibly, or you know what? Or I just got to think like Gaga and Nicki Minaj and just do the whole thing,
Dude, I say go for it, man. Listen, and 54 is still young, but 54, to me, in the world of hair loss, it opens you up to so many more options that a 25-year-old doesn't have.
Absolutely.
Or
I gotcha.
They may have it, but it's not socially acceptable for them to go there.
Right. Well, I'll tell you, Joe, sometime I may contact you privately and we'll discuss further.
Anytime you got questions, I'm happy to help.
Because unfortunately, man, I've had to swallow a lot of pride, and being a proud person, man, that is swallowing a bit. And, you can only take so much after a while.
I know. Listen, Marcus, we always appreciate the call. We're going to close up shop. I'm glad that I took.
You get it.
I'm glad you were hanging out after the show, but it's 43 minutes after the hour, and I got to get some food.
I got to go to the gym.
Love it. Hey guys, have a great evening.
All right.
Hope to do it again sometime.
And I love the yarmulke story. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. All right, guys, let's close up shop. Joe from Staten Island, you were potted up the entire time. You could have spoken, but you chose not to.
I didn't realize I was potted up.
You were.
Hello?
Yeah.
I didn't realize I was potted up.
Dude, hold on. Big Biceps keeps asking which FUE surgeon does the best recipient area. I mean, so that no one will notice you got a transplant. I don't have that answer. it really depends on the particular case. There are plenty of doctors who are doing FUE on a regular basis that are leaving really close to invisible scars in the donor area. It also depends on how many grafts have to be moved. It depends on the size of the punch that they're using as well. And also depends on your skin texture, depends on your color, your coloring. There's a lot of factors involved. I would say that most of the guys that are doing FUE on a consistent basis, where most of their practice is FUE, they're leaving very minimal scarring. So go to someone who does FUE every single day, and you're probably going to be in better hands. So, Joe Tillman, are you there or no?
I am here. I
am. Listen, thanks for thanks for hanging out, Joe from Staten Island. As always, thank you for calling in. We will update you on Kerry's hair transplant with Dr. Alan Bauman. He's having it on Thursday. He's probably going to tweet out some images and put stuff on Facebook. And I want to apologize to Dr. Bauman for the technical difficulties that we had. We will try to make it up to you during the week by getting more information about Kerry's hair transplant through the Bald Truth. Guys,
one quick question. Will you be announcing when your next show is? You'll be announcing it on the Bald Truth Forum?
I don't know. I kind of like the fact that we didn't announce it, and we're still really busy, and a lot of people in the chat room, and it kind of makes it a little bit more intimate.
Right, so I just tune in and see if you're on.
Yeah.
Good night, Joe. You're a really great guy. Good night, Spencer. You're a really good mensch.
Thanks, Joe.
Man. Take care, Joe.
Don't quit, please, man.
Take care. Brush your hair.
Oh man, that was nice.
Why? That's what they say on GFQ all the time.
Yeah.
I know.
Jesus.
I know you're just kidding, man. You're my best buddy. You know that, Spencer. You're a real get mensch.
Take a joke.
So have you expanded the show now to 3 hours?
No, we're not. We had issues for the first hour. We were getting some good calls. I want to be able to put something, that's good online this week. So I decided to take some calls and, continue on with the show. Can I go now? I'm starving.
Good night, Joe Tillman. Thanks for the advice.
All right, Joe, take it easy. I got to hang up on him. I got to hang up on him. I can't. See you, Joe. He doesn't get a chance.
Well, he's a passionate guy. He's, he wants to keep talking hair. He can't get enough of the subject.
Jesus Christ. All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Let me go out the website, thebaldtruth.com. Of course, if you want to see archives of this broadcast and segments and archives of The Bald Truth UK, check out thebaldtruth.com. If you want to interact with other hair loss sufferers, you can check out our message forum, which, of course, is baldtruthtalk.com. I always kind of have to let people know and preface everything as far as, when I tell people to go to the forum, that you got to take things with a grain of salt. Realize that some of the information on all these message forums, it's being put out there by anonymous users. You never know where it's coming from. So really learn to read between the lines at baldtruthtalk.com. If you want to learn more about hair loss, you can check out the American Hair Loss Association website at americanhairloss.org. And again, go to Alan Bauman's website. You can find his website. I think it's baumanmedical.com to get some information about Thursday's event. And, we wish Kerry the best of luck with his hair transplant. He's in great hands. Joe Tillman, thanks for hanging out. And
it's been fun, as always.
Well, I'm glad you were here. Until next time, guys, be strong. God bless. And thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the program. And I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Thank you. Good night.